Here we are, we're gonna start by doing some of that loading, some of that putting out the water because it's hot. So we're gonna get it right here and we're gonna wait a little bit. We're gonna get that hydration. Thank you, farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians, firefighters, grocery store clerks, all involved in the production of food. I'm gonna wait a few seconds, gonna fill my bottle up, gonna hydrate HYDRAT, and then we're gonna go on that journey before the 3-hour march. We gotta get hydrated. Let's go. Dragon Army, hydrate for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, those in the daycare, changing some diapers across the 63. Across the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. Let's rock and roll. We're gonna wait some 10 seconds to clear the pipes. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we're gonna get a little bit of water into hydration. Let's get HYDRAT. That's an airplane. Is that military grade airplane, like my military grade boots, by which we're gonna go on this march. Time to fill it up and rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll. There we go, there we go. That's what we're gonna do with that, and that's what we're gonna get that rock and rolling, and that's what I'm gonna step on. Gonna get it for now, and gonna say gratitude, you know, super important. Say gratitude, grateful, thankful. Rent's paid, electricity bills paid. That's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna put this backpack right here on. So that's always good that we got that access to those running water. There's a bug. There's a bug on the phone, and that's what it is with that. And that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get doing on that rock and roll. So we're gonna cross the street there. And actually, we're gonna go now. Because it's safer for us to cross now. Safer for us to cross on the bike, on the go, and that's how we're gonna get rock and rolling, man. Rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, fires, plumber, electricians. Is a rainstorm coming? Oh, if it's a rainstorm, we got double trouble because it's supposed to be a stormy day. So wait, we're gonna have to mount up. Let's go. Enough of my face, I guess. Enough of my face. Get it now to the fridge and see if the storm starts. If the storm starts, it's supposed to be stormy, a little bit thunder here from my neighborhood. Gonna go around the bow, but you know it doesn't stop us. Storm or raining, shining by the river to the mountain. Yesterday we went to the mountain by downtown, and here grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and the electricity, you know, something which we gotta be doing, man, you know. So here we're gonna check the fridge from the community, and we're gonna go rock and rolling with that, and check some yellow flowers, and that's how we gotta get on that hydration. And we're not gonna pass because somebody's waiting to get there. So we're gonna give priority to our fellow other citizens to see what's in the fridge. If there's something in the fridge, we're gonna of course triangulate and see if we got some sunshine food pantry here. There's nothing in the fridge, and if of course somebody, I wish I could fill this fridge. It's good for the community. This is super good for the community here. I wish I could fill it up. Gotta thank the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers, electricians, the grocery store clerks, and that's all we gotta get doing with that. That's all we gotta get doing with that. And so I gotta get crossing the streets here prudently, you know. Turn your heads left and right. You never know. The brakes malfunction. The electricity malfunctions, the brakes, you know, can get some impediment, and they get some of that circulation which doesn't function properly, and we're in trouble with that. So that's what we gotta get doing on the go, and you know, encouraging all to exercise, workout, train, exercise. And right now I always have a big smile on my face when I'm exercising. So we're just gonna go put some of that raincoat. I think the best possible place for me to put the raincoat on is somewhere around here. If I go there by the side, turn your heads left and right, left and right, left and right. Make sure before you cross the street on the prudence, and that's how we gotta get doing here, you know. Crossing prudently, gonna check some yellow flowers, and we're gonna go put that raincoat on, you know. I always admire a little bit of yellow flowers, how they're grown. These are pretty, wow, these are pretty interesting. These are really yellow compared to the other ones, you know. But these are really yellow, you know. Those are really, wow, look at those, so yellow with that. That's our yellow. Gonna sing some yellow. Yellow, yellow as we go. For the yellow flowers that you know. The fridge, I wish I could put it fully, you know. Because I'm financially stressed. Right now my only stress is really financial. Besides financial stress, I'm pretty good in my life, you know. But I live with that condition called Asperger's. So employment is very high in my community. And what Asperger's is, of course, is a neurological mental divergent condition which makes us and me predisposed to special interest. And of course, there's no medication, no cure, because Asperger's is not a mental illness. It's just that we have certain mutations of our brain. Our brain has certain parameters inside the micro level. There's mutations of the brain. You know, an Aspi brain is just different, and us less than 1 percentile, less than 0.5%, less than 0.44% of citizens in the world have Asperger's. So it's not a common illness, you know. It's not an illness. Correction. My bad. It's not an illness. It's not a malady. It's not a disease. Yes, in certain things it is, I would say, quote unquote, an illness or a disease. Is in certain cases, for example, in social communication, we have certain impairments, and in quote unquote, I'm less able, or I would say even a disability in certain things of the societal nature and how we communicate. Sometimes it can be strange, odd, or not abnormal. Now when it comes to our regular special interests and our routines, and me, if you want to get involved in these three, the holy trinity for rainbow, dragon, androgynous, pansexual, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, and mystic, I believe in those reincarnations. Sometimes was born a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, a woman. Right here in the 1700s, I lived as a woman in Quebecoise. Well, as a Quebecer woman back then, it wasn't the Quebec as we know now. It was the Nouvelle France, New France, and right by the Coureur de Bois, when the development of what we know today as the North American Civilisation complex, of which we got to pledge allegiance for the 63, for SSD. That's my principles and my domain, and my, of course, call to all to support the 21st century dancing goddess and dragon kingdom, which is fundamentally a dream for the North American collective, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, for total S, total D, total security, total service, total defense, based on my protocols and initiatives. And I'm a philosopher and independent geopolitical theoretical honest and theorist. And you know, Aspies, again, it's not a mental illness, but yes, in certain things we are less able, less capable, mediocre, so. But of course, certain Aspies, we can be excellent and really good at those things which are our special interest, also known as obsessive interest. And this Aspie loves those yellow flowers. Yellow flowers with a beautiful tango on the go. Let me give us a kisses for the road. Truckers, butchers, electricians, farmers, those changing some diapers in the daycares, you know, because I'm a philosopher for the pro-labor and love revolutionary centrist, however, democratic Republican, and my way to fuse Canada and United States best. And if an Aspie would have a special interest, also known as obsessive interest, science, technology, then Aspie, her, he, she, they, whatever, Aspie would have the knowledge, wisdom, understanding of all that telecommunication tower. He would be able to just discuss for hours and hours and hours, tell you the details about the functioning, the parameters, when they were developed, possibly where they're developed, or speculate closely based on intellect where they were. But me, in this life, parallel life, is not science, it is geopolitics. So that's my special interest, and I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical honest and theorist. I take great pride in my geopolitical work, and I gotta say again, I reiterate and repeat that I predicted what's happening now back in 2019, I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. Back in 2019, I predicted, and here we're at the corner of, on the street, in the NDG. Gotta turn your heads left and right before you cross the street, and prudent, because you know sometimes they come in fast, and that's what they do. And then Aspie would also know all the information about those telecommunication towers there that are circular. Although I see blurred, you know, I see blurred after a distance. I was prescribed some glasses. But I gotta go do a lot of checkup. I got a lot of things I still have to do, because I live with yours truly. But for Asperger's, since it's a neurological mental divergent condition, there's no medication, so you cannot medicate Asperger's away. An Aspie just have to live with it, and I always have to manage my characteristics, which For the neurotypical, the vast percentage of the 99.56% of the population, you are the neurotypicals and we are the neurodivergents. And Aspies were not a lot. In Aspies in the world, in North America, we're 0.44%. So we're a tiny fraction of the population. And my holy trinity of special interest, it is geopolitics, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity, and rock and roll, you know, that's what I do on the daily basis, intense, concentrated, and sometimes I'm super intense, super concentrated, you know, on my long marches, you can see for hours and hours and hours, and we Aspies have a routine. Our daily routines usually are habitually revolved in a ritualistic type of manner, characteristic with sometimes rigid, but I am pretty flexible. I can be change. I love change, and I would love to be some economic, financial change in my life because I lived for many years, you know. Aspies, the problem is our community faces several intersected problems. So these intersected problems is that the unemployment is very high among Aspies. So an Aspie unemployment is 11 times higher than the average population. Can you imagine that? There's no other community really that faces such employment problems, because there's a lot of concern, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misjudgment what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not. Especially in the 21st century, there has been a lot of work done to understand properly Asperger's, and we have these mutations, and my king, the Pope, is shining now, so I guess I got a good omen to say that you gotta verify to the ABC, we gotta verify to the ABC to get doing the ABC, and it's a news channel which of course purported and stated in a documentary that the proper way to understand Asperger's, or that Asperger's is of course a step in an evolutionary process. It's an evolutionary process. So that is a step towards an evolution, according to them. Now I don't fully accept that fully. I still gotta revise and check the documentary again to make the points, or whatever points are made in the documentary. Supposedly Asperger's is an evolutionary point. It's maybe this mutation is a point towards an evolution, but you know, in the 21st century now, today, 18th of June, on the verge of World War III, Aspies still are 11 times more unemployment. Between 60 and 80% of people with Asperger's are unemployed. And I had many jobs. Many jobs I had, and lots of friendships, you know. I lost lots of friendships because it's hard for us to maintain Aspies. It's friendships, losing employment, high unemployment, isolation, and self-harm. So parallel to the problem is, two problems face Aspies on a short, long-term, medium-term, on the daily, monthly, annual, for years and years and years. For me, has been the case, and I've been suicidal and depressed. And in the Asperger's community, suicidal tendencies and ideations and suicide and depression is 9 times higher. 9 times higher. 9 times higher. 9 times. Parallel to 11 times the unemployment rate, so you can figure that out, and those are just the statistics. But in the past, me, because it's been for years, I've been diagnosed and told for years and years and years, more than 7 years, that I have Asperger's, and I've never wanted to accept it because it's like a stigma, you know, playing that label of being different, you know, being different, and then the majority of the population, and what's in the normal category of sections, whatever you want to classify as. So we have our vulnerabilities. I'm gonna thank my anonymous friend. My anonymous friend who gifted me several books, one of which was loaned several times from the library, appreciating and understanding, appreciating Asperger's syndrome, appreciating and understanding Asperger's syndrome. And I learned a lot that Asperger's, you know, you have to learn what it is and to manage, because we can be vulnerable. So my vulnerabilities in the light have been shown that, especially by that book. So I said, hey, it doesn't matter all these years, you know, at least in the past 7 years, because I kind of restarted my life a few times, 3 times, I guess. This is about to be the fourth. Now I guess July 1st or end of July or whatever, September 11, whatever the case may be for this 2025. But I moved from a small moldy place maybe 10 or 9 years ago. It was July, either 2015 or 2016. So if it's 2015, it's going to be 10 years. And I used to live in a very moldy place, type of like prison cell with lots of mold, and and I moved there. I was attacked by surprise a few years ago. I fell, I hit my head on the concrete, had a dislocated right arm and shoulder, and I was bloodied up. I was put on some meds, kind of like in a coma for a few days at the Jewish General Hospital. I still have to retrieve. I'm hoping to retrieve and make the request for retrieval of the archives, hospital archives, which I'm probably going to do by July. So I was there, you know, and I was the right arm, right shoulder was cracked back, and that's what it is. It was cracked back together, and it was placed back to get doing with that, and that's why we gotta get lucky, you know. So basically that it was doing with that, and basically that's what it is with the rock and roll. So I lost memory. So basically I have retrograde amnesia symptoms. RA. Retrograde amnesia, so it's memory loss, of course, which of course is either by a trauma or something else causes retrograde amnesia. Either by a trauma or prolonged illness, or of course other trauma, mental trauma to the head, that is head trauma causes it, and it could be the way to retrieve it also. So it could be a combination of these factors. So trauma or prolonged illness, that's what it can be, prolonged illness, and that's what it could be with that, and that's how we could do that rock and roll. So prolonged illness, that is something which it could be, of course, part of the move out of the way of the ambulances. Gotta move out of the way of the ambulances, and keep on the right when you're marching, and also beware, because you know you got metals on wheels which can counterpoise the body, which is a temple for pleasure and purpose. That's my philosophy, you know. So I have problem accessing my memory. I have a good memory of the past 7 years, 8, 9, 10, then 11 kind of gets like blackout. So I moved, I was depressed, suicidal, and I said again, Aspies like myself, it's 9 times higher rates of depression and suicide, and I lived through it, and you know, I unemployed. Well, I had a lot of jobs, actually, a lot, especially during COVID, but keeping them, you know, sometimes it was a few weeks, a few days, a few months, you know, it's just shorter lived employment, you know. The employment obstacles and these depression and suicidal tendencies are way too high among Aspies. So that's why, of course, that book helped me, of course, to also understand that my difference can be sometimes intimidating, concerning to others, and we don't understand, don't know what it is. And there's these quote unquote, it's not really an illness, but it's not really a disability. We're less able, less capable in certain social circumstances, you know, and so certain social circumstances, you know, of a certain nature. So these social circumstances make us that we are, of course, on the divergent side. Make us, sometimes we can be pretty direct, you know, offensive, seemingly offensive, and pretty direct, and that's how we are, you know, pretty offensive, direct, and we gotta get doing with that, and that's how they gotta get doing in the sky here, you know. So we can be pretty offensive and direct in certain things of the nature, of the societal nature. We can be, of course, on the direct side of things, and that's how we gotta get rock and rolling, man, together for the trip. And we're gonna go by where's please no food waste, but that's how we're gonna get doing, man, you know. We're gonna get on that work, and here we're gonna go by the falaise, and sometimes we change a little bit, but you know, we have Aspies, we have our routines, and these routines preoccupy all of our days and rituals, and for years and years and years it's waking up, doing what I do, and studying, analyzing geopolitics, and I am an independent geopolitical theoretical constant theorist, and working out, training, exercising, and rock and roll, because really my life kind of re-began also, I guess, when I moved, and in 2017, when I crossed Canada coast to coast. So in 2017 I had crossed Canada coast to coast. So crossing Canada coast to coast in 2017 in August, went in British Columbia, Vancouver, BC, Vancouver, British Columbia, August 2017, and then in September 2017, I went to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So I crossed Canada coast to coast, and that event changed my whole life. Before that, that got me out of depression. That got me out of being suicidal, because I had an awakening. I said so many things to see, to do across the collective, across Canada and the 50 states. We got to unite, make that 63 for the kingdom, for the empire. Across the 60 states, 50 states and 10 provinces and 3 territories, which we're going to fuse in the dream of public-private partnership, as we're going to create the public-private partnership dancing goddess army, DGA, aka North American Integrated Dance League, with the Dragon Army, aka North American Integrated Security, Service and Defense Legion, the SSD, the Legion for the 63, only for S, security, only for security, service and defense, based on my new 911 Total Dragon, security and service and defense for the North American Collective protocols. I know some of my dictums have a bit academic, intellectual, more cosmopolitan and scholarly titles and prognosis, and of course summaries of my philosophies, which of course can be pretty complex, but sometimes I resume them and you got to quantify them and classify them in a certain order, with the whole umbrella of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which has the rock and roll song 24/7, pledge your allegiance, legions to our family, pledge your allegiance, legions to our family, pledge your allegiance, legions to our family. And you know, here for the 63 years, I wish world peace. I predicted what's happening now, as I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. That's what I do on the daily basis. Even when I march, I do geopolitics, you know, in my head, in my brains, is always in a one point or another, in different manners, by different ways, of course. The study, the analysis of geopolitics. The study, the analysis of geopolitics is a constant. Yours truly, with me as an N.A.C.W.P. That's what my special interest: geopolitics, sports, fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity, and rock and roll. That's my holy trinity, and that's 24/7. Even this morning I delayed. I wanted to leave by 11. I just checked the news. I was concerned. I'm concerned about the Israel-Iran new conflict, which began 13th of June with Operation Rising Lion. Now, as much as I can state and take and see, first when we get the dancing goddess, the Dragon Army, SSD form, then we can move forward to external non-North American collective, civilizational collective complexes, situational awareness, and taking foreign policies, formulations. But first and foremost is for the North American collective, of course, and all who come to join us, and all who live black, white, and rainbow in the North American collective, as a democratic Republican philosopher artist who's still a piece of dust. I'm a nobody. Sometimes I'm a joke. But when it comes to geopolitics, that's my kingdom, my realm, and my proof is that I predicted what's happening now. Just to summarize my prediction in 2019, October, November, because due to the fact, of course, that I predicted it. Not only did I predict it, but I have proof of that prediction. I had the World War III scenario, because I predicted an international conflagration, in other words, a type of World War III type of scenario. And so that World War III type of scenario, of course, is in many ways ongoing, parallel to what's happening now across the North American collective, what's happening now across the North American collective, what's happening now across the North American collective in many ways, and in the foundational ways of which we are. Those beautiful trees, gotta admire. And of course, to state that I have proof, I have the video, and I predicted an international conflagration. If I could, it was a bit, my geopolitical work, as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, my work as relates to geopolitics can be sometimes overly academic, overly complex and intellectual, but sometimes I gotta make some resumes, which I'm gonna do now. So I predicted that there's gonna be an international conflagration on the horizon coming in the next 7 years, from 2019, October, November. Based on one major premise, common denominator, was due to unresolved geopolitical conflicts dating from the 20th century. So due to these unresolved conflicts, which dated from the 20th century, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration on the horizon. Just going to stretch a bit. that there's going to be an international conflagration on the horizon. On the horizon. Because that's beautiful. On the horizon. But my prediction included several possibilities. 50-50 on the nuclear question, but it was a two-thirds on the biological weaponry. Two-thirds on the biological weaponry. So 2/3 on the biological weaponry. So that's 66% biological weaponry instead of nuclear. So in other words, it was a higher probability that biowarfare was going to be used. So more probability for the use of biological warfare than nuclear weaponry being used. The probability for bioweapons is higher. And that these conflicts, the conflicts that were not resolved in the 20th century, especially during the Cold War period, which Cold War lasted between 1947 and 1991, so almost 45 years. Almost 45. March 1947 till December 1991. So these conflicts lasted such a long time. Lasted a long time, almost 45 years. That's a long time, almost 45 years. The Cold War, right? East and the West, the Iron Curtain, the NATO Treaty Alliance versus Warsaw Pact. The Warsaw Pact, the Warsaw Pact. Have to not forget, the Warsaw Pact dominated many countries in Eastern Europe. Ukraine was part of the USSR. So that's an unresolved conflict from the 20th century. The splitting of the Soviet Union. A the most major geopolitical event of the 20th century. If not at the end of the 20th century, would say because I guess both the formation of the Soviet Union and the dissolution of the Soviet Union are two parallel, paradoxically, geopolitical events. The most important geopolitical events, of course, no, but among the top 5, I guess, because you have the rise of Imperial Japan in the 20s and 30s, right, in the East, and then you have the rise of Imperial Nazi Germany, or Nazi Germany, you know, their imperialistic, militaristic aggression for expansion and conquest, right? So that was a problem. So that was a problem in the 20th century. Now in the North American Collective, we made great compromises to have the continuity of the peace, such as the maintenance of the French language. But I have to also do it, because if I don't do my part for French, as a Quebecer Canadian North American who was born in the United States, who admires these flowers right now, because I believe in reincarnation, you got to read George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly. George Patton, the U.S. General. One of my favorite poems is Through a Glass Darkly. THROUGHAGLASSDARKLY. What was that? Look at that yellow bird. I have a bird here. Was that yellow? That was something else. I'm gonna try to see it. Although I gotta be careful when I come here. I don't want to disturb it, but it's just a bird I never seen. Looks like one of those tropical birds, you know. Where are you, birdie, birdie, birdie? So these conflicts from the 20th century, 20th century. Oh my gosh, I really got to see that bird again. Maybe I will never see it. I'm gonna have to capture it and see that it's between the 27th minute, 27 and 40 seconds, and 27:44, 27:40, 27:44, approx 27 and 40 seconds and 44 seconds. Anyway, so those unresolved conflicts of the 20th century, I predicted that they're going to resurface. So in Russia, Ukraine is an unresolved 20th century Cold War era unresolved conflict. Again, also another conflict which is unresolved fully is the Israel-Palestine. Hamas was founded in the 1980s, during the Cold War, in the 80s, right? Pakistan-India, or India-Pakistan is another unresolved conflict. Another unresolved conflict of the 20th century. Another unresolved conflict of the 20th century. Another unresolved conflict of the 20th century. And of course, you got the Taiwan, China, 20th century, India, Pakistan, and of course Israel, Iran, also Iran, right? Because the Iranian Revolution, established the Iranian Republic in 11th of February 1979. 11th of February 1979. 11th of February 1979. 11th of February 1979 was when the official new regime in Iran took power. So that's 11th of February. That's 25 years, 26 years, because February passed. So if you calculate from 11th of February 1979, that's what it is, you know. So and that's what we got to take into consideration with that. And here we are, you know, admiring a little bit of flowers here and there. And the North American Collective, we're a new civilizational collective, emergent. That's why our common destiny is the fusion thereof, and you know, to make it for the 21st century, because we're the distinction between what I call the North American Civilizational Collective, Canada, United States, as a Canadian American, you know, because I'll try to be universal as I can, but of course certain things I lack direct experience, although in past lives, some past lives was born a man, a woman, a man, a woman. I was born 3 times in the USA, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces, 2 different wars, 156 years apart, although I have some knowledge, some information, some wisdom, mostly from books and related with passing several years in one foot in the streets and one foot in the streets and byways of the big cities and the alleys of the big metropolis Montreal, and one foot in the libraries. If I retrieve my archives, I guess there's gonna be so many books that I take out. I stopped when I got COVID, but before that it was library, books, and I started my fitness journey in 2017. I have been and will continue to advocate for the public-private partnership to mass finance fitness, along with tourism, because of course crossing Canada made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, who are family, Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans. And I gotta salute the truckers now, truckers, bakers, butchers, and see how my brain now works, because I see some trucks there. I know that they're carrying potential elements, which of course are super important for our North American civilizational complex, going east, west, north, south, such as goods, whatever the case may be, goods, candies, or bacon, bread, cheese, and tomatoes, etc., etc., etc. But they're also open for potential vulnerabilities of sabotage and espionage, because of course we made powerful enemies by providing not only economic support, not only economic support, but also military support. So we have not only provided support in a academic manner or moral manner or humanitarian manner only, we also provided arms and armament, right? And I need to do a big discussion on an independent geopolitical analyst interest of the paradox of both Germany and Japan rearming in the 21st century post-COVID. So this is a paradox because there are 2 taboos. Several taboos have been broken, but that taboo has been broken now. So that taboo is that Imperial Japan always depended on the United States for defense post the Second World War's defeat, and Imperial Japan, don't forget, that attacked the United States in 7th of December 1941, Pearl Harbor surprise attack, just like I was attacked by surprise. And I guess somebody tried to take me out. I had my own Cillian Pirate episode, but hey, here I am, joyous, financially stressed, but joyous. Rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and it's 18th of June, so I gotta get on that rock and roll here as I'm marching towards the sun. My Publik, I see dispersed some clouds, and it's cleared the way for me to march on that good, you know, for the truckers, plumbers, bakers, nurses, electricians, doctors, firefighters. Please give some charity Wall Street, and the public workers changing some aqueducts. We gotta salute the workers of Hydro-Quebec between 1947 and 1991 who built all the North American civilizational complex, you know. All those workers now on the field across the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories. Do the math, that's 63. I'm gonna approach those beautiful flowers here as we have some of those beautiful flower clusters. See, flowers, nature, civilization can go together. You see that big highways across the 63, that's why we need the DJ, Dancing Goddess Army. So you see those beautiful flowers, and you see the truckers, beautiful flowers, the truckers, the bakers, the nurses, construction workers. I need you to build the floor across the empire. Gonna credit some massages, feet washing, and massage therapy session. And I wish today I could afford a massage therapy session. I'm financially stressed. Any volunteers, friends with benefits only, want to make some loving with Rainbow Dragon, friends with benefits only, or pledge your allegiance, thou our family. Yours truly, philosopher, artist, athlete, independent, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, and mystic. Just a piece of dust. Nobody, just love that rock and roll, geopolitics. Nonetheless, with all that said, I predicted what's happening now. So if you want to make some loving or friends with benefits, you know, if you're a man, a woman, black, white, rainbow, man or woman, you know, you got to be 18 plus though, 18 plus. On that 16 plus, 18 plus, and that's what you got to be with that, on that 18, 16 plus, and that's how you got to congregate with these beautiful flowers. Let's approach, make sure we got a good peek. What's going on here? Oh yeah, we got some beautiful bees going on them. Where there's bees, there's honey. Let me know if you got the money. Where's bees, there's honey. Let me know if you got the money. Where's bees, there's honey. Let me know if you got the money. Where's bees, there's honey. Let me know if you got the money. Where's bees, there's honey. Let me know if you got the money. That's what it is now in the sun, and that's how we're gonna get doing, man, in the sun. You know, gonna get that rock and roll and geopolitics 24/7. You know, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians, grocery store clerks, those butchers, truckers on the road now, carrying those in the farms, those baking some bread across the 63. Gotta salute, get that cadence for them, and that's how we're marching. Although in mind, you know, that my obstacles and my neurodivergent, parallel to being part of the A.S.P community, having Asperger's, and also being part of the LGBTQ community and the greater North American collective civilizational community, the whole 350 million in the States plus 44 million in Canada. That's close to 400, you know, about 390 together. If Mexico is part of North American collective, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba is a paradox because they're still one party socialist state, right? So the paradox, but they're part of North America, Cuba and the islands, Barbados and St. Vincent, Kitts and Bahamas. They're part of North American collective all the way up to Mexico. Some include even the smaller states like Panama, Guatemala, El Salvador, and go all the way to the tip to include North America. I would consider that mostly Central America, but I guess we could, in theory, include the smaller countries following Mexico as we go down south. That way south now, that's east, that's north, and that's west. Gotta salute the train conductors. See our trains, we gotta massively reinvest in our trains, and we gotta implement the DRT, another paradox that I put on the table, the debt refusion tree, which I discuss in every video, and I'm gonna discuss it soon. And you see, I know that now my brain switches to geopolitics, and I gotta know and have new servers set up, and a big public-private partnership for the Dragonomic, integrated with all existing security institutions, armed forces, and force police forces, and of course to know everything that's coming in. Everything that's coming in, the ports and the airports, the ports and the airports, the ports and the airports, for total security, total service, total defense. We got to move towards a great security and service defense complex in the North American civilization. I'm not going to get too academic, intellectual in the rigor, because it requires a little bit of further, deeper understanding of the individual and the collective, but nonetheless, it's need for services, you know, such as, for example, massage therapies, spawn out recreational, mass recreational, financing of mass recreational, such as tourism, you know. It establishes the great esprit de corps, and we got to integrate our brothers and sisters through the incarcerated population to the vast majority that we can rehabilitate. And as I sing that rock and roll for our armed forces and the boys and girls in blue, 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 as I sing rock and roll for them, I'm going to sing also for my brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation, who take their second chances and build together with us the 44 tunnel, mass constructing 44 tunnels inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain complex, the NATO headquarters, correction, the NORAD headquarters. NATO is for including Europe, NORAD is for Canada, United States Military Alliance, the NORAD based in Cheyenne Mountain Complex and the Montreal Underground Village. And paradoxically, the Hamas tunnels, the paradox is also inspired by the Hamas tunnels. Supposedly they're between 350 miles and 500 miles, between 350 miles and 500 miles, of course, extensive underneath the population, the Gaza which started to be built around 2007, so it took them a few years, and supposedly mass invested billions and billions and billions to construct them. So we're going to need to put maybe 63 billions just to build those 44, maybe more, 156 billions, maybe 333 billions, 333 or 418, etc., etc., etc. billions to build the 44, and with the help of our brothers and sisters who are going to do their criminal rehabilitation in case there's a nuclear war. We gotta start building them and make sure that some millions survive, and put some food and make them survivable. A mass investment, Canada, United States, is we're gonna fuse for building the 44 tunnels in case of a massive thermonuclear war. Our brothers and sisters in the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, you know, athletes are gonna have to contribute, put some little bit of that muscle for the children, for the youth. They're innocent, so in case we have nuclear war, we're gonna have to also build the Golden Dome. We're gonna have to put a hawk in it, the H-A-W-K, and we're gonna put some metal, some steel. We're gonna plumb it up, and we're gonna build it, some steel, some plumbing, and that's all we're gonna get doing with that. And we're gonna rock and roll to build the 44 for the North American Collective, and build more satellites, sats. In a parallel life, I construct satellites. In this life, I'm just a financially stressed aspie artist, athlete, philosopher, but we gotta build those 44 tunnels, and that's all we gotta get doing with that for the 44 tunnels, you know, to get it on the go. And see, gotta get some salutation to the train conductors. Maybe they need a massage. Well, I don't know what that says on that. There's some writings, but some of them are good. Looks like stars. And if you're a good talent, if I would be police, I say, he got some talent, but it's not the way, it's not where it's supposed to be. Let's give him some spaces to the graffiti artists to express their, I understand the impulse, you know, but like if they're screaming, we got to set a place where our fellow brothers and sisters who have these impulses to graffiti, to make something good, you know, Dragonomy, make some flowers, make some cities, make some colorful things, you know, to be embellishing, not making eyesores. But I guess there's a bit of art in the eyesoreness, but you know, we gotta designate places, you know, and then when people go by there, they know that this is a place like this. We could designate this wall to be anybody who wants to be doing graffiti to be able to do it. We could, you know, and I am for that. For example, giving a space or building space for brothers and sisters to express their creativity. But phone numbers, no, I'm not gonna call. So back to being an independent geopolitical theoretical honest and truth. But see, like this type of colorfulness, yeah, and that snake is pretty cool. And those ones there, the graffiti on that's pretty cool. I mean, it got a little bit of color, right? Got some color, but you got some talent, you know. And some of it is art, I guess. And see how long this train is. And now my brain focuses on the security service, and of course the understanding that it might be carrying some vital goods, which are vital, just like the truckers, saluting the truckers, LOV to the truckers, the train conductors, saluting some goods, and knowing that it's vital for people to nourish their families, nourish their children, because civilization is a privilege, civilization is a privilege. So the Dragonomy, we gotta establish new massive across the 63 centers where of course we can volunteer, and of course we gotta build new supercomputers and integrate it with all police services and armed forces for the Dragonomy from Montreal headquarters H-A-W-K. In order to, we have to know everything that's coming in, because it's coming in by the ports and the airports. That's why we got to get rid of the border ASAP. No need, it was a mistake to invest in the border. We got to fuse my way, the public-private partners. You see just like that fusion there. See? Fuse the Canadian flag and the United States flag on it, and it's better to focus coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and make a democratic Republican compromise, just like we made here, and we continue to do the great North American civilizational complex compromise. And we gotta rebuild the 3G, 4G, 5G, going on the 4G, 5G, I guess. And we have to get total security, total service, total defense based on my new 911 Dragonomy protocols. And we gotta mass invest in the housing, social housing and rehabilitation of our criminal population, and especially building the 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. Paradoxically, also those tunnels are inspired by the Hamas tunnels, which supposedly they were mass invested billions, and supposedly they are between 350 kilometers, miles. It's still, even if it's kilometers or miles, between 350 and 500 kilometers or miles underneath, that means that it's huge. It's like the whole island of Montreal, just tunnels underneath, because Montreal is about that, you know, it's about that. But it's square kilometers, but I guess the tunnels is not really square, right? Because it's just tunnels, so it's not really the area, right? It's a different type of mathematical calculation. I'm not gonna go into the dynamics because I don't know, I'm not on the ground there to see, but if I would protrude and go and estimate some tunnels, how they're built and how they were doing it, that's paradoxically also inspired by those tunnels. Also inspired by those tunnels, also inspired by those tunnels, you know, so that's something which we got to look. And of course now we got the Israel-Iran conflict, so we got to be sure of the Israel-Iran conflict, whatever the case may be. And here we got some beautiful flowers, and we got some workers in the construction, and kind of salute. Hey, I got to give some loving. Wow, look at this field. This is just incredible. You want to come here and work out, do push-ups, and admire the flower. Thank you, public workers. I love these embellishments of the city. I appreciate them. The only thing I don't appreciate is this, and I'm gonna take it. Now this is not good. This has to be recycled. So it has to be recycled, but you know, this is what you get. It has to be recycled. Please recycle it. Don't leave trash there. Just wait, or put it in the recycling, not in the garbage, and keep it with you. You know, it's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna harm you. I know maybe you drank it there, you were impatient and threw it there, but nah, please don't. Look how beautiful it is, you know. It's a public space. It's not a corporate owned. You drank your corporate drink. And I am for a public-private partnership. Eh? My dream is public-private partnership based on, in essence, fundamentally, my dream is a call for a public-private partnership across the North American Collectif, and that's how we gotta get doing. Let's see. I'm gonna just check if there's both recycling and garbage there. So as I see these construction workers, which I admire, I call for the building of the forgotten goddess. I will to build the forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple. My will to build, of course, the forgotten goddess temple. The North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border to be 11 times bigger than the harbor wall. See, you have it, accessibility, but you have to do it right, because this is garbage, right? That's garbage, and this is recycling. So we have to do it right. Is it done right? So we have to do it right. We have to put it in the recycling. So please, please, please make an effort. Just make an effort, you know. So as I tell the construction workers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, and the electricians, and all those involved, you know, in the production, distribution of food, I gotta be thinking about them. And as we're gonna go, of course, now on the road, and we're gonna explore a little bit of that good loving, and feel like turning on the other side. We're gonna go by that side down, and that's how we're gonna go heading, and that's how we're gonna go get that rock and roll, you know, and gonna go towards the sun and zigzag it a bit, and that's how we're gonna clock it in for about 6 hours, I guess. 6 hours of the march if we go up and down, and then if we switch all around, we're just gonna see. Sometimes I just take different routes and go a bit switch, but sometimes I maintain the same type of routes. It all depends. It varies with day by day, I guess. I gotta take it day by day on the go. That we gotta do it on the go. So I encourage you all to work out, train, exercise, and I gotta give them a call for some employment business, some work opportunities, and that's what I just gotta do. It's a hot day today. Hot day. I was expecting a bit of a thunderclouds and get a little bit of that thunder. I don't see the thunder coming. Maybe it's past, or maybe it's coming on later, you know. That's what it is. And I gotta focus on the probabilities of now, of course, of the humidity, how it's humid, and how the probability of thunderclouds, I guess, thunder and rain and storms, and it's always something which we gotta get probable. I kind of like what was done here, like this. Hey, it's kind of nice. See the plateau? See the public workers, how they did a little bit of that work. So if you notice how they put it 1, 2, 3 and aligned with those, like kind of in a pyramidal type of section. See, it's kind of like a pyramid, but here it kind of has that circumference, because here is like this, a circumference. So if we are to calculate the area of this, it would be more difficult to calculate the area based on the parameters, because it's not straight, and it would be like this, you know, like that. So we'll calculate all this parallel side, and then we have to add it up to calculate the area to know how much square meters. It's not miles, it's not kilometers, it's gonna be meters here. So sometimes my brain, N.A.C.P. brain, just tries to calculate, for example, the enclosed space, the enclosed space in a mathematical manner. I would assume, I would say it's about 44 square meters, but it could be more. 44 square meters. It could be, not sure, maybe. Maybe. There we go. Look at that. That's how we got it there. So we're gonna go in the sun, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and so we're gonna get doing on the go, man. You know, that's the Montreal downtown core area. And that's where we're gonna. That's where we went yesterday, and we go often. And the mountain is over there somewhere, miles, kilometers away. But see, now my brain functions in a manner which is parallel, integral, of course, to the North American Collective. North American Collective, and of course it is the North American Collective which we got to get drilling on that, and that's what we got to get drilling. And of course all the truckers, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, and the electricians, and all those firefighters, the plumbers, the butchers, the bakers, the plumbers, the doctors, the firefighters, all those across the North American Collective, across the 63, you know. That's how we got to get doing, and we got to get doing on the go here, you know, for the empire, for the kingdom. That's how we're going to get drilling. And encourage my uncle, don't give up, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. T'es capable, t'es capable, t'es capable. You're capable, you're capable. Just don't give up. Keep going and drink lots of water. Lots of water, it's hot. Yeah, still gotta love the old timers, eh? Still gotta love some of those old timers. They built all this. I remember working in the CHLD. Still gotta love our old timers, old timers, old timers, and that's how we got, you know. Still gotta get the old timers, you know. Gotta get the old timers on that, man, and so you gotta get it, you know. They built all this. You XYZ men, women of the 20th century, for us to have a lot of privileges, eh? Of the 21st century, there's a lot of privileges. The highways, the transportation, the radios, the transportation, you know. Also for them is going to be the 44, because we're going to have a selection. But yes, we're going to prioritize the youth, obviously. Going to prioritize the youth, the children, the youth. But we have to have some old school elements as well, you know, in the 44. But mostly, let's say 2/3 is going to be people who are below 22, 2/3, 66.6%. That's 2/3 is 66.6. 2/3 translates as 66.666, right? Because when you go and divide it by 3, the 100th percentile, that's of course changes a little bit of the dynamics of the interactions of mathematical proportions. I'm American mathematical. I'm not an expert. I'm not a mathematician exactly, but I love percentages and fractions and calculations. And I was just saying, for the 44 tunnels which we're going to build, is important to note and to state that we are going to have to make the proportion to be for the youth, a lot for the youth, for the youth, for the youth, for the youth. And that's how we got, and that's what we're going to get doing, you know. For the bakers, the butchers, and the nurses, and the doctors, the plumbers, electricians, firefighters. That's how we're going to get doing, man. It's hot. Not hot enough. I mean, not hot that I cannot handle it, because I can handle this type of heat. But I'm just a bit worried for just staying hydrated properly. So last time we came the other way. Now we're going the other way, if you noticed. So last time we came, we went by that side, and then we went by the river. So this time we're gonna go the opposite of the other circle. Basically what we're gonna be doing. So we're gonna have to take all the Well, I'm gonna discuss the DRT, but first, let me finalize on my World War III scenario of 2019. So back in 2019, I created, made, and produced a workout training program system designed to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. You heard that correct, because I have proof. I have it online. And I've been in a type of World War III mode ever since. And I'm hyper vigilant. I don't like violence, but I am hyper vigilant because of these dimensions of my life experiences and my trauma, and memory loss and being attacked by surprise and all, etc. And I live with lots of scars. I discussed in past videos, scars on my face, on my body, on my little clit, dick, androgynous little scar. I got a pussy dick, dick, pussy, 50-50. Sometimes it goes rocket. I guess because in a parallel life I build rockets, satellites, satellites, supercomputers, microchips. I also have Asperger's in that parallel life, but in that parallel life all I do is coding, supercomputers, and I speak fluent German, English. I grew up in Germany in that parallel life. I grew up in Germany, but I moved to the United States, but I grew up in Germany. In that parallel life, also in N.A.C.W.P, I grew up in Germany. I was born, etc. I moved in the United States. I live in Canada, United States, Germany, Israel. So those are my 4 main countries. In that parallel life, in that parallel dimension, parallel timeline, parallel life. And there, it's only science, technology, mathematics. Just like in this life, for N.A.C.W.P, my 93+% of my daily activities revolve around geopolitical analysis, geopolitical studies, geopolitical theorizing, and rock and roll, and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity, being that I dance now with my eyes, my mouth, my feet, my hands, you know. So I moved where I live now, probably gonna be 9 or 10 years, gotta check, but I think 63 for the omen, a good omen. The 63 for the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories for the Dragon Army SSD. What a providential number there, the 63 for the 63. I know who will to join us, but we gotta get the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Thank you, truckers, and the butchers, the truckers, the electricians, the plumbers, the doctors, the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. That's how we gotta get doing. See, they're going west, and the other ones are going east. Now we're heading west. We're heading west, us with them. And imagine all of the trucks across the 63, across the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. So we gotta mass finance tourism with each other, Canada, United States, as we're going to get rid of the border, as we're going to create the new security service and defense institution, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, for the 63, as we're going to merge and fuse in a democratic, republican, private public. We've got to make these understandings, the public-private partnership, especially to build the 44, and also to rebuild the North American ghettos. Also to rebuild the North American ghettos, to rebuild and rehabilitate the North American ghettos, aka the inner urban cities. So millionaires, billionaires, we're gonna put, for the dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, we gotta put 10%. As we're gonna put 10% maximum, beautiful yellow flowers, on the interest rates we're gonna charge thereafter. So as they're going west, west, we're gonna go west, east, and come back in a circle, close the circle, and get a little bit of that feast on the budget after my workout training program, which is probably gonna be more than 5 hours. Yesterday was 7. I think exactly 7 hours and 2 minutes yesterday, and the day before was 6 hours and some minutes, so more than 6. Yesterday a bit, not by many minutes, but a bit more than 7. So today's probably gonna be more than 5, maybe even more than 6, because I increase when during the spring, but I average more than 20 hours Monday to Friday, or when the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom regular week commences, and Sunday sunset. And of course, the Sabbath begins Friday at midnight, basically Saturday. EST, Hawk Island, Montreal, aka Hawk Island, N.A.C.W.P, my totem bird. Montreal is an island surrounded by the Snake River. Now here we are. What a beautiful field of flowers, eh? Beautiful field of flowers that are wild. You can see beautiful wild flowers that you be. I gotta sing it for the butchers, for the truckers, for the nurses, for the doctors, firefighters, truckers on the road. Some are young and some are older. Some are younger, some are older. Some are younger or some are older. And that's what we got, and that's how we gotta get doing, man. And that's how we gotta get loving, man, you know? And here we gotta put it for the French language. So it's a great linguistic compromise which we made. And we gotta keep on making it to the best of our abilities. To the best of our abilities, and learn some French with us. My brothers and sisters Quebecers make an effort in English, and vice versa. And love that red, and BASRA, Basra Transport. Check it out. How much is their fleet? We need a total Dragon Army new fleet. Look at that red. We need 3 new uniforms, type of uniform. 1 for security, 1 for service, 1 for defense. Of course, black for security. I guess, and service, white for service, and red for defense, and I guess the rainbow one in between. The 4th one is gonna be rainbow to be the referee. The referee for the SSD. You gotta get as a referee like on the gridiron for the security, service, and defense. Security, service, and defense, you know, so just gotta get it on now, man. The referees, and gotta give a shout out to those daycare workers changing some diapers across the 63A. Those bakers, butchers, and those in the donated to some food security. Of course, the increasing cost of living has been skyrocketed, and problematic in a pile of way to that is the increasing problem is, of course, the not just the cost of living, but also the credit card debt has risen to record levels for both Canada and the United States. That's why I'm now gonna not tardy and delay the discussion of my DRT, debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory, DRT, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, the DRT, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. Another transport to check, SHABAD, Shabbat, SHABAD, with an S, not a C, 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 SHABAD, bad. I wonder how much is their fleet, and we need trucks for the Dragon Army, and new, of course, mega trucks to be able to have maximum capacity 44 personnel, or some less, some more, and for total security, total service, total defense. And it's gonna be new Dragon Army, basically is the kind of nickname, but it's gonna be, of course, the SSD Legion, the SSDL, and some for security, some for service, some for defense. And that's how we gotta get doing and drilling with that, and that's how we gotta get on that rock and roll, you know. Gotta salute the public workers and those picking up some garbage collectors. Please, NFL, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, MLB, please finance the garbage collectors. Finance the garbage collectors, public workers, nurses with it, and the doctors in the public of the 63, the North American Collective. Please finance them some tickets. And before I go into the SSD and the DRT, that is, that refusion theory, I just want to will to state, and without delay, that my work, of course, philosophical, intellectual, academic work, kind of predates my rebirth more than 7 years ago. It's going to be 8 in August and September, so way more than 7 years now. It's like cross Canada coast to coast. And of course, the work which we have to get involved with, is to build a 4-4 on the Canadian-US border, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, to be 11 times bigger than where the Super Bowl known as the Harbaugh Bowl, aka Blackout Bowl, aka Bro Bowl. It has several nicknames. That Super Bowl were my 49ers, San Francisco 49ers, we're Empire, not Nation. Lost by 3 points. Lost by 3 points. Yeah, to the Ravens. And that's one of my top 5 Super Bowls. Paradoxically, my Niners losing, because the top 3 Super Bowls out of the 5 is my Niners winning. And out of the top 5, that's my 4th favorite, where my 49ers lost. And the 5th is not a 49er one, but paradoxically, when Tom Brady won with the 6th ring, the 6th, because he's got 7. One he's got with the Bucks after the Patriot dynasty, after the Patriot era, where he got 6. He's got a Super Bowl ring with the. Well, they defeated the Rams in the lowest ever score, 13-3. The lowest ever score, 13-3. So that is one of my favorite as well. The lowest score Super Bowl where they lost 13 points to 3 was one of my favorites in the top 5. That's one of my favorite top Super Bowls of all time. Paradoxically, because not a lot of people liked it, but I liked the time management, the defense strategy. It was very strategic, very defensive to the core. And time management and defense was 2/3 of the game, right? 66.6%. So that's one of my favorites. As my theories, protocols for the Dragon Army and the new 911 integrated total security, total service, total defense are only for primarily, first and foremost, fundamentally for defense. For the 63 coast to coast, ocean to ocean defense, security service, coast to coast, ocean to ocean defense, security and service. So that's what we gotta get doing. And of course, the protocols which we gotta instaurate and implement are, of course, the trinity of theories, of which the DRT. So let's build the 4. The 444. Gotta check that lineage. LINEAGE. Reimagining the world's food supply chains. And in theory, the 63 Canada, United States one we're gonna fuse, where we can be totally secure, and we don't really have to rely on anybody, because we got the water here in Canada, and we got a lot of other things, not just the water. We got rock and roll, we got brains and muscle together, and some softness and some loving, because it's not just a true north, strong and free. We got to add some love to that, just like in the 50 states, we got to add some to land of the free, home of the brave. Land of the free, home of the brave. We have to add some love. So just like in Canada, we have to add some loving with it. So basically what we're going to do is going to build the 4. The North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be the biggest ever sports arena complex ever built. And the inauguration event is going to be me fighting Donald Trump, because I've been and I'm carrying in the backpack now the red gloves, the red backpack, carrying those red gloves. I have those red gloves in the backpack, carrying them in the backpack, gifted by my anonymous friend, who definitely wasn't my friend because of the money, you know, because I never had any. I moved there where I live now with nothing really. I don't even remember what I carried with me there. Maybe all the things that I got, I guess, mostly was my anonymous friend who got using this nice lion bag. And that's it with the rock and roll. So I carry those with me, the red gloves, and we're gonna do some more boxing. And we're boxing a little bit now, getting prepared. This is part of the Dragon versus Trump, of course. All have been since 2018. Fitness journey since 2017. Lost between 80 and 93 pounds, and I've been able to continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match ever since the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, because this is what I'm going to say now. It's fundamentally a geopolitical reality and truth, which has been a truth, true and honest and direct, and it's always yes, has been in the 20th century and will be now and will be in the coming decades in the 21st century. Us Canadians, Quebecers, Canadians, geopolitically, our foreign policies have to be the #1 foreign policy when it comes to outside non-Indo-Canadian domestic affairs, positions and policies. When it comes to foreign affairs, we have to, of course, take into consideration and know and say yes to this statement that our main geopolitical interest when it comes to foreign affairs is to have the best, most cordial relations, economic, financial, diplomatic, business, defense with the United States. And vice versa, my brothers and sisters in the United States, is to have the best economic, social, defensive, security relations with my brothers and sisters here, your brothers and sisters in Canada. So that's why we got to get rid of the border and fuse in the 21st century. It is our common destiny. It is our common destiny. And I'm no Trump supporter, but that was a mistake geopolitically. And don't invite us like that, Granddaddy Trump. Don't invite us, Canadians. It's Canadian American who was born in the United States 2 times. Don't invite us with bullying and tariffs. And yes, we have to accept it, that we're vulnerable. We are vulnerable. 85% of our exports go to the 50 states, to the brothers and sisters, citizen consumers, the U.S. markets, the U.S. markets, the U.S. markets. That's just the reality. There's 2 oceans, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. That's why we got to get rid of the border, create a common currency, and implement my DRT. There's just no way around the situation. There's just no way around the situation. That's just how it is, you know. That's just how it is, you know. So that's just the reality, the geopolitical reality. And this is a constant, just like the pi symbol. It's like that N with two-headed N, two-headed N, two-headed N, two-headed, with like 2 heads, right? To the side of the N symbol, the pi, which is the mathematical constant reflecting the relation between the circumference and the diameter, right? So it reflects the deflection between the circumference and the diameter, you know. The circumference and the diameter. That's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing, fellow brothers and sisters in blue there. Boys and girls in blue getting some donuts. Give me one too, because I'm broke. I'll sing some rock and roll. No, but I sing rock and roll for them also. Boys and girls in blue, but I also gotta sing for those who do their criminal rehabilitation, man. And gotta give the permission for my brothers and sisters there to pass and get on the go. And so I gotta do, man. And they're getting some donuts, getting some coffee, and you know, they're individuals as I'm an individual. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're stressed. You know, the salary of the police, I mean, they make more than me. I survived on 11,000 in 2024, and I'm an N.A.C.P. I don't know how much I would be, but see, I'm good in theorizing and implementing philosophies for the future policing of the North American collective. That I'm good at, because I'm a philosopher. But of course, in certain things I will be weird. See, but the weirdness of Aspiness, it reflects of how come there's the number 40 and then line and 004. Those numbers, these are little Aspiness, Aspi traits. We focus on these special details. And these special details, of course, special details can be like, what the fuck, of inconsequential nation, of an inconsequential nature for somebody else. Or they got that 3 flags on that. Estimated 2007, Energy Express. Driven to be different. Well, I'm different due to my Asperger's, but I love the fact that it has. I love the fact that it has on it. I love the fact that it has on it the Canadian flag, Mexican flag, Canadian flag, Mexican flag, the Canadian flag, Mexican flag, United States flag, Canadian flag, Mexican flag, United States flag. So you gotta maybe also invite Mexico, as we got the Canada, United States first. Maybe unite Mexico. I like that. That's nice. One tacos? Maybe. So maybe unite Canada, United States together as we're gonna pass. Gonna see if this is a traffic congestion. I think I'm gonna pass just by here, by the side. It's gonna be prudent, because here you can pass. Here you can pass like that, but you gotta wait sometimes. But now it's a congestion, and you gotta be careful here. I always watch for other people because I know the area. I've been passing by here for years and years and years, but that's, you gotta check the lights there, and also from the corner, right? From the corner. So now it's red, now you gotta go when those go, because this is one way. I mean, there's 2 ways there, so that's the problem, because that way they can come fast, by that way they can come fast. And it's not necessarily that, but they might not know the corner and they might pass here, because if they come by that way, they can pass here, see? So in TV you can go like that, to there like that. Okay? So that's the thing, you can go by that side like that. Okay? So that's the thing which you gotta be mindful of, that you can go that side and just drive it in, you know, and just be prudent of that corner here. When you come, if you come here, just on the bike, or just be prudent that, know that those they can turn there and those they can turn there real in a problematic manner, where just gonna get out of the way of my fellow citizen because I think it's coming by the bike. And here they got steep, and oh, they gotta get on the bike. So you got to be prudent at the corner there. So even here, if you come by bike, when you come here, if you come, there's a bike path. So you got to turn your heads, because sometimes they come really fast. See, like they come really fast, and that's what it is, man. And they come really fast, and that's what it is. So prudence. I'm in the public, so I got added responsibilities and obligations, duties, and let's build a 4-4-4. Well, I think it has, I see blurred there, but I think that one on top also seems, although I see blurred, because my vision, I was prescribed some glasses, but also see, and a good omen, it has both the Canadian flag, United States flag, and Mexico. And Mexico is part of the North American Collective. I speak Spanish, I learned some Spanish, and you know, linguistic capabilities and mathematical knowledge is not affected by personal memory loss. For example, the childhood memory loss or adult memory loss, what's called retrograde amnesia, retrograde amnesia. Retrograde amnesia. So it's the inability to recall memories prior to the onset of either prolonged disease or head trauma, or PTSD, also post-traumatic stress disorder, can cause it. So those are causes which can manifest in several ways in such a manner that those dynamics are affluent to the possibility and the congruency of whatever the possibilities are for an individual to experience that. But thank God, Goddess, that language capabilities, linguistic capabilities, and mathematical capabilities are not lost. And that's what it is with that, and that's how we go. Maybe it's COVID, because I had COVID, I got triple vax, 3 vaccines. Triple vax, so COVID, coronavirus sometimes, coronavirus, the COVID situation, coronavirus. I had COVID in 2020, between February 2020 and March 2020, celebrating more than 5 years ago. 5 years, wow. Love, I like that. Love. Make some good loving for me. Hug like you never hugged before is the main message. And let's build the 4 on the Canadian-US border, the biggest sports complex arena for sportus in perpetuitis. That would be Latin in the North American-centric manner, to have sports 24/7. Sports 24/7 for fitness, where the sports leagues of the Canada and United States join for the 63. The universities, the colleges, and all others. We're going to have special events for the truckers, the firefighters, the plumbers, the Dragon Army, Dancing Goddess Army. And parallel to the North American people's Imperial Coliseum, it will be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome changed names. Before it was used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz Dome or Mercedes-Benz Arena. Now, I got something in my eye, I got something in my eye. Of course, biggest sports arena ever. That's what it is with that, and that's what we got to get to. So gotta get doing on that drill. So the biggest sports arena ever, that's what we got, and that's what we got on that drill. So the biggest sports arena ever, 11 times bigger than the Harbor Ball, and that's how we gotta get drilling with that. And we're gonna build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and of course the forgotten goddess GeoDDSS temple, because I created me surviving COVID, surviving being depressed. I was depressed and suicidal, and being that I was depressed and suicidal, created my surviving COVID to the goddess, being depressed and suicidal. I credited it to the goddess GeoDDSS, and being depressed, being suicidal, created my surviving and my rehabilitation into joy. Happiness. And I guess I'm free in many ways, but I try to live just. If I can fight racism or whatever, you know, if you're black or whatever, brown or whatever, you want some hugs, I'm always willing to do that. And some hugs, kisses I got, money I don't, but I would not be reticent or have any reservations to financially help my brothers and sisters over the North American Collective, first and foremost, who are different than me. Different than me is, of course, I am different. Being an N.A.C.W.P, I'm part of this tiny, small minority, 0.40%. Let's build the fort, Forgotten Goddess Temple, North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and the House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Crimson, Crimson, Scarlet, Crimson, and Scarlet. Our shades are red, my favorite color. So I'm wearing the backpack and on my head, R-E-D, red, and of course, to build a Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow LGBTQ community and neurodivergent community, rainbow community and neurodivergent community. That's how we got, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get loving, you know, for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and the firefighters, the plumbers, and all those involved in the production and distribution of food and all that. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and so I gotta get on that rock and roll, you know, for the left, for the right, in the middle, in the right, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know, for those butchers, plumbers, electricians, and the nurses, the doctors, and the firefighters, you know. That's how we gotta get rock and rolling and build the fort, North American People's Imperial Coliseum. The Forgotten Goddess Geopolitiks Temple. I created trains of kisses from the heavens, collected, gifted to yours truly, from the goddess of heavens who spit on me, say, hey, piece of dust, here's 718 trains of kisses. So by those kisses, first and foremost, with rock and roll marching steps, I'm laying the foundations for the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the democratic Republican Democrat centrist PPP. My universal revolutionary centrism is tied hand in hand with my Trinity theories, the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt fusion theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory, that Trinity theories for the 63 and all who will to join us. Pledge your allegiance to our family, to be implemented also via love. Then some good loving, hug like you never hugged before. Encourage you all to work out, train, exercise, and by the DRT we're gonna be able to build bridges, mass rebuild bridges such as this, mass rebuild bridges, mass rebuild bridges such as this, which of course we need to implement the DRT. So now that I'm on the subject, I'm gonna approach the DRT in a minute. Just gonna express my gratitude, grateful, thankful. My rent's paid and electricity bills paid, and got food, got coffee, and starting to run out of coffee, but I guess I'll be good until July 1st probably. Be able to stretch it. Today's the 18th. Maybe by Monday, Tuesday though, I'll maybe run out right 2-3 days before, because I want to do a big spring cleaning Friday, and I want to do a 1st of July, you know, before 1st of July. That's officially kind of moving day in Canada, but I don't have any money to move. I would have to buy my anonymous friend a house, but hey, financially stressed, with trains of kisses, marching steps, blah, blah, blah. Pledge your allegiance, encourage you all to work out, train, exercise, and, you know, I'm on a fitness journey, and it always starts today, my fitness journey now, but without delay, the DRT. Debt refusion theory on the table. The DRT, debt refusion theory, the DRT, debt refusion theory is my solution, and it is the only solution. Where actually something that resembles my DRT is the solution. Not necessarily that is my theory, but fundamentally the core in essence is that, of course, my DRT resembles, of course, the North American Collective, and of course resembles what needs to be done, and resembles what needs to be done in the consequential where we are and have arrived, you know, here at the point in time where I'm financially stressed, $10,000, and where the majority of the population lives under financial, economic, commercial stress with record credit card debt, and parallel to the record indebtedness and credit card debt for both Canada and the United States, because my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, which includes monetary integration theory, has to be implemented binationally, as we're setting up that binational salvation front. Binational salvation front, that's the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, in a parallel way to say it, binational salvation front, as we got record food bank use, we have record food bank use, record breaking food bank use, in the past 3.5 years escalated during COVID, and the vast majority of people are a lot of in debt, and some more and more videos that there's no more middle class, no more middle class, no more middle class, or the middle class is so in debt, and paying so much interest and living off borrowed money that it's not to be considered a middle class anymore, or from Canada, United States. And this has been also in the past years, not just today, 18th of June 2025. It's been happening for years and years and years now. So we have to implement the DRT. You can argue against it, but it's the solution. We have to. We're on a point that today, as I left, I think it was 1:44 or something like that. Before 2 o'clock, 1:56, 1:56, 1:56, 1:56 it was when I left, you know, 1:56, and 1:56, of course, was the world when we're gonna implement that total new 911 protocols for the North American Rehabilitation Act, and that's how we go, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get rock and rolling, you know, and that's how we gotta get on that trail. So it's something which we have to be doing, you know. So on the go with that, and on the go with the rock and roll. So that's all we gotta get doing, you know. And we gotta get rock and rolling for that, and we gotta get rock and rolling, man, you know. That's how we gotta get drilling here, you know. Something which we have, and that's how we gotta get on that drill, man. So rock and roll with that, and rock and roll for that, and rock and roll with it, and not a drill, and implement the DRT, the debt refusion TV, the debt refusion TV, the debt refusion TV, the DRT, the debt refusion TV has to be implemented across the collective North American civilizational complex, across North America, the DRT, the debt refusion TV, the DRT, the debt refusion TV. DRT, the debt refusion theory for the North American collective, you know, because we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. So as I left, it was 1:56. It was 1:56, but possible after 3 now. As somebody makes me a big donation at 3:33, big million dollar millions of billions of dollars for the dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. But paradoxically, it also could be the beginning of the beginning of the financial crash. The beginning of the financial crash, 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 the beginning of the financial crash. That's what it is, that's what we're gonna get doing, and that's what we gotta get rock and rolling, you know. Please, 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 no, bad. I don't have gloves and I don't know whatever the case may be, but that is no good. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that. Don't pollute. Don't pollute, please. You're taking my smile away. That's why we need the DGA. See, the DGA, the dancing guys. So we're gonna, of course, take all the public, and this is the DRT explained now. And it's possible, like I said, at 3:33 paradoxically, somebody finances yours truly and works with me by donations, just like that N.A.C.W.P last year, which I got a salute, donated $25.44, which I bought a bottle of wine, some cheese, wine. I bought wine, cheese, wine and cheese, and there's some bacon. So I got nutrition with that donation. A cheap, affordable, very on the market, less costly wine possible. So that's what I purchased. That's what I purchased. And that's what I got on the rock and roll side of things. So here as we go in the sun, you know, gotta meditate on that. Thank you. Gratitude is important for mental health, is fitness. You know, I cannot stress enough the importance of gratitude. Because civilization is a privilege. See, the electricity, all these things we got is a privilege. You know, the highways, the television, the internet is a civilizational privilege. Privilege of civilization. That was my thesis back in 2023 as the People's Doctor. Now the DRT paradoxically at 3:33 p.m. The financial collapse, stock market crash can happen, and the public financial collapse of Canada can start, can happen, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. And so we gotta get doing on that drill, you know. And of course, parallel to that, also the importance is that baby paradox. At the same time, I get a donation. I rather the financial markets no financial collapse, but it's not a personal opinion of mine, and I have no control over the markets, the Wall Street. I'm not a trader on Wall Street. In a parallel life, many lifetimes ago I was involved in banking, finance, you know, economics and finance. Many lifetimes ago I was involved in finance and whatever the case may be, but not in this life, you know. In this life, I got the DRT, the debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange. So the DRT, gonna explain it now. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We have to implement the DRT binationally. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my debt, your debt, our debt, your debt, all the public and the private debt. My $10,000, your $10,000, their $10,000. So my 10,000, your 10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. All the debt, all the public and the private debt. I love what they put that information there for Lachine. All the public and the private debt, we're gonna take it all. My $10,000, yours, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. Into US dollars. So convert it into US dollars. We're gonna add it with the United States public and private debt. With the United States public and private debt. So add it up, all the public private debt. Canada, United States, well, the Canadian debt is going to have to be converted into US dollars. We're going to add it all up. So we're going to add all the public and the private debt. We're going to add it all up. We're going to add all the public and the private debt. We're gonna add it all up. That money, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. So all the public private debt added up, the US dollar, that's gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank. Canadian, US, Canada, United States joined binational. Just because I was gonna have to state that my DRT, debt refusion theory, in my DRT theory is integrated monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union in the 90s. The Germans destroyed their national central banks. The Italians also. The French, the Italians, many countries, they destroyed their national central banks. And they destroyed their old currencies or annulled. Whatever the case may be, I'm using the word destroyed, but whatever the case may be, that's the fundamental principle, is that they no longer have their old national central banks and their national central currencies. They have, since the 1990s, 1999, at the end of the 20th century, they have the ECB, the European Central Bank, which issues a currency for many countries in the European Union. Right? Some, not a lot. Countries have retained the dual currency, the euro and their own currencies, but not the main powers like Germany. It's been more than 26 years since they got rid of their Deutschmark. So we're going to create the UE. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The UE. U dot universal, E dot exchange unit. The universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. The universal exchange unit will be based on the value of the dollar initially, as it takes off as a new currency, but initially it will have the value of the US dollar. Have the value of the US dollar. Of the value of the US dollar initially. The value of the US dollar. Initially, we have the value of the US dollar. Of the US dollar. Of the US dollar. Initially, we have the value of the United States dollar. Initially. So all that debt, public and private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars, added with the US. So all that debt, public and private debt, is going to be, of course, the public-private debt of the North American Collective together, Canada, United States, binational. All that money is going to be, but the Canadian debt has to be converted into US dollars and then added with the US public and private debt. All that money, that's going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. And we're going to create the UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.Unit. The Universal Exchange Unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10%. 10% is going to be the maximum. After that, we could be lower than 10, but not more. And then with that money, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure of the collective, the North American Collective, the 44 tunnels we're going to build. We're going to mass finance citizens' fitness. We're going to create more hydroelectric dams here in Hydro-Quebec. And we're going to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army and the Dragon Army, the North American Collective of the Dragon Army. We're going to create the SSD Legion, aka the North American Imperial SSD Legion, aka the Dragon Army for total security, total service, total defense, based on my new 911 Dragon North American protocols for total security, total service, total defense. And that's how we're going to be doing it. And so we're going to get doing on the road here. Just going to go by the side here to get a drill. And I wanted to take a peek of that flowers there, so I guess I'm going to cross the street if I want to see them, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to. Turn your heads left and right as you cross the street. So you gotta get doing it. I think you can make some juice with those, some juice with those. You gotta be on that go, but this is what I wanted to see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's how we gotta get drilling with that, and that's how we gotta get doing on the drill, you know. We gotta get that communique, and we gotta check and matter some flowers. So we're gonna take all the public-private debt, and we're gonna take all the public-private debt, and we're gonna convert it into US dollars. We're gonna add it up, and that money is gonna be the initial money supply for this new central bank and this new currency which we're gonna implement, the UE. We're gonna do lots of good with that money, rebuild the North American infrastructure, the sewers, the bridges. We have a lot of bridges to rebuild. We have a lot of work to rebuild, a lot of bridges, lots of bridges to rebuild, and lots of work in the North American Collective. And we're gonna do that, lots of work of work with that. And here we're gonna go drill it by that side, because the other way is gonna go see. And so we're gonna get on that, man, to get it loving. And so we're gonna give for those butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and they build those 44 tunnels and give the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act. And that's all we gotta get doing on that. And we gotta get doing on the road. and we gotta get implementing the DRT and the debt refusion theory to get on the left, right, and center. And that's how we gotta get some pipes here to get doing on the go, and we gotta get doing for the love, for the butchers, for the bakers, and the nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, the grocery store clerks, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And that's how we gotta get doing on the streets, some cleaning and mass financing fitness, and mass financing fitness for that. And that's how we gotta get doing on the love side of things. And we gotta get doing for Daliette, and got Jeannette there, Jeannette. That's a good name here at the streets as we go for the corners, but that's how we gotta get rock and rolling, man. So that's the DRT, the debt refusion theory, integrates monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory integrates monetary integration theory. Hey, look at that big bear, man. Monetary integration theory, of course, is implemented for the trinity of theories of which we got. And so we gotta get on that rock and rolling, and we gotta get on the hydration, you know, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the firefighters, and all those involved with the production, distribution of food. And that's how we gotta get on the do, man, to get a little bit of that work done. And that's how we gotta get doing on the work done to be doing. And we gotta see a little bit of that food waste. Please, no food waste, no food waste, no food waste. Gotta get it for the lovers, the butchers, and the bakers, the nurses. I wonder here, how's the rent doing, the rentals? And, you know, I live in a better place now. I gotta be grateful, you know. Gotta be grateful. Grateful because I gotta be grateful for that. And gotta be gratitude for what I have, man. Gotta be grateful for all what I have now. Because if I would have stayed where I used to live, I'd probably have been dead. Been dead if I would have not moved. It was a moldy, like a tight prison cell. Small on the ground. Type of prison cell, type of prison-like cell, you know. So I guess I serve my time, and that's what we gotta get doing with the rock and roll. So we gotta get doing on the drill, you know. Sometimes we just gotta do it now, and that's what we gotta do on the proverbs, and we gotta do the proverbs of the dragon army, cadence coming, and gotta get it now on the other side. See, last time we came, well, last time wasn't that long ago, it was Monday, and then yesterday we went to the mountain, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, and we gotta get doing on the go, and we gotta get doing now, you know, to get it for the La Salle here, the corner, La Salle here. That's for La Salle, man. That's where we are, you know. La Salle. Somebody eating some cake. Save a piece, don't food waste, don't be so selfish, millionaires, business. I'm not totally selfish, but I'm not totally altruistic either, you know. Not totally selfish, not totally altruistic. You know, I gotta be in between. I'm just gonna cross by the river. Yeah, thanks for stopping, because this is, of course, the pedestrians. So yeah, priority for the pedestrians, and their metals on wheels, you know, and their metals on wheels to go on the XYZ. And we got to do it on the butchers and the bakers and the XYZ to do it that, man, you know. The DRT has to be implemented on the go. And my fellow, oh wow, this is so sweet, so refreshing here. It just hits now, hits the refreshness from the water, kind of like a coolness, feels like the ocean. Now it triggered a memory. This is how I felt when I was walking by the ocean, both in Nova Scotia, Halifax, and in Vancouver. And this is snake, S-N-A-K-A, like a snake river. See how big it is? And we're gonna switch to that French because we're not belle province, and pledge your allegiance with the DRT, debt refusion theory, and the creation of the UE. We're gonna be able to do lots of good. Lots of good things. We're gonna rebuild the North American people's Imperial Coliseum. We're gonna make people work out, train, exercise. We're also gonna build those 44 tons. We're gonna mass finance the butchers, the bakers, and the nurses, the firefighters, you know, the plumbers, electricians, and all those, of course, to build the 44 and rebuild the North American Imperial people's Coliseum. Rebuild the bridges, the railroads, the aqueducts, and oh, it's coming a fresh breeze, you know, fresh breeze in there, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and gonna get on some loving with that, and gotta get on that LOVE, man, you know, because we got now across the 63 somebody being born, and we got the DRT, that refusion theory for the XYZ, and I gotta get it on the line. decided to get a little bit of that loving. And I always love when I see people working out, training, and that's my main special interest also with geopolitics, you know, the geopolitical theoretical analysis, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, you know, to be able to get it on the do's and get it on the go now, you know, as this heat wave, and we gotta get doing on that, you know, so to get it on the drill, you know, and that's how we gotta get XYZ, and so we gotta get drilling on that flowers, and we gotta get it for the DRT, man. DRT, that refusion theory, for of course the North American Collective, and we gotta get it on the love side of things and get some encouragement. When I see people working out, training and exercising, is something which of course has to be taken into consideration, that we are together here and we got some places, all fresh breeze of air, and here we made a great linguistic compromise at the collective, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, loving, and we gotta get doing on the love side of things, and we gotta get on that rock and roll, man, and French, because we're in la belle province. En français, bienvenue, on est sur la proche de la rivière dans ce jour de canicule. Il fait chaud, je veux dire, bien sûr que c'est de la chaleur pour la faire, bien sûr, de la chaleur dans ce momentum qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui, de le dire, le 18 juin. Il va commencer bien sûr avec la gratitude. La gratitude, j'ai payé mon loyer, hein? J'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café, j'ai du thé, puis j'ai du café, j'ai du thé, puis c'est des choses bien sûr qu'il faut que je prenne en considération dans ce point de convergence, puis bien sûr de dire des salutations à travailleurs publics. Travailleurs publics, c'est un beau verre quand même, tu trouves? Faut leur donner des salutations, hein? C'est la salutation. J'ai toujours une appréciation parce que je suis philosophe, hein, artiste, athlète, mais vous savez que je vis avec cette condition de neurodivergence qui est l'Asperger's. Fait que, la plupart de mes énergies mentales, comme nous, les Asperger's, les Aspi, on est neurodivergents. Fait que on a un cerveau qui a des mutations. À cause de ces mutations, on voit le monde différemment. Fait que moi, il faut comprendre que moi, ben, checker sur Internet, vous voulez l'Asperger's. Nous, on a des intérêts spéciaux. Fait que ces intérêts-là, ça préoccupe avec intensité, super concentration, super dedans. Fait que moi, c'est la géopolitique, l'entraînement physique, la danse et le sport que je préfère, le rock and roll. Fait que ces trois sujets, trois intérêts spéciaux, aussi connus comme intérêts obsessifs, préoccupent la plupart de mon temps. Fait que maintenant que je suis artiste, athlète et philosophe, j'ai vu le travail public, je m'imaginais en faire une petite danse. Une danse en tant que votre, vous savez, messieurs, madame, le dragon arc-en-ciel et la prêtresse, Anne, prêtresse. Anne, vous allez avoir de la misère à prononcer le H, mais comme moi, dans une autre vie, j'étais né je vivais en 1700, entre 1688 et 1735 à peu près, et bien sûr, je prononçais les H différemment. C'était pas le Québec d'aujourd'hui, c'était le Québec de la Nouvelle-France, puis le français de 1700 était différent d'aujourd'hui. Mais bien sûr, qu'est-ce que je veux dire, c'est que mon cerveau, comment ça fonctionne la plupart du temps, c'est soit à faire des analyses, des révisions des théories, des révisions des événements, de la géopolitique du quotidien, puis bien sûr, en voyant le travail public, je médite à la salutation vis-à-vis notre Québec, la province du Québec, le Canada, et qu'est-ce que j'appelle en tant que philosophe le grand collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord. Le grand collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord, le grand collectif de civilisation nord-américaine. Parce que nous, au Québec, on constitue un collectif de civilisation. On est émergent, on est un nouveau. Une nouvelle civilisation, mais on est un collectif de civilisation, mais c'est sûr qu'on s'amalgame de plus en plus, donc on a fait le grand compromis du français bien sûr. Le grand compromis du français qu'on a fait, ça fait longtemps qu'on l'a fait, bien sûr. Fait longtemps, là. Ça fait longtemps que on l'a fait, ce grand compromis, tu sais. Pas nouveau, mais on doit le continuer à le faire moi-même. Je dois le continuer à le faire moi-même, tu sais. Si moi je le fais pas, toi tu le fais pas, mais ça veut dire qu'on le fait pas. Fait comment ça fonctionne, le cerveau d'un Asperger's? On a ses mutations. Bien sûr. Fait que ces mutations-là, bien sûr, ça fait bien sûr qu'on a des mutations qui sont différentes de la plupart des gens. Fait que ces mutations, bien sûr, c'est dans un complexe, bien sûr, qui sont bien sûr dans la convergence d'avoir, bien sûr, un produit différent des autres, tu sais. Mais c'est un produit, je veux dire, je suis pas un produit, mais je veux dire la production mes analyses et théories en géopolitique peuvent être un peu académiques, intellectuelles et d'une manière plus académique, plus intellectuelle dans le côté de la théorie et de l'analyse. Tu sais, c'est toujours, c'est constamment la géopolitique, la géopolitique, la géopolitique. Fait qu'en étant de la géopolitique, un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, c'est sûr que c'est constamment ces choses-là dans ma vie, tu sais. C'est bon. Un beach body, beach body, beach body. C'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse moi aussi, mais je vais peut-être me rendre, là. Je vais devoir, peut-être jusqu'au 1er juillet, ça veut dire qu'à 18, j'ai 13 jours, là. Mais c'est pas gros, mais en 13 jours, je pourrais perdre 13 livres, là, si je m'essaye. Puis me rendre un peu score de même. Mais moi, j'aime ça, l'entraînement physique. Fait que j'ai vu je vais appeler mon cousin, là, parce que je vous considère comme mes cousins, mes cousines du Québec, du Canada, puis du collectif de la Civilisation, du collectif de la Civilisation, du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Et bien sûr, c'est dans ce compromis, bien sûr, qu'on est rendu ici à faire un compromis. Des fois, c'est sûr qu'il faut faire l'effort, tu sais. Si moi, je fais pas l'effort individuel pour le français, on va pas le faire, tu sais. Fait que si moi je le fais pas, mais ça veut dire que les gens le font pas. S'il y a plus de gens qui le font, il y a des gens qui le font pas. C'est pas pour. Il faut pas que je fasse une généralisation parce que je suis un individu, hein. On est des individus, mais qu'est-ce que je veux dire, qu'est-ce que j'essaie de dire, c'est je vous encourage à faire un effort. C'est sûr que pour certains gens, c'est plus difficile d'apprendre l'apprentissage de l'anglais aussi. T'sais, ou vice-versa, l'apprentissage du français aussi. C'est pour ça que nous, il faut qu'on encourage aussi, pour les gens, s'ils veulent parler le français, mais qu'on les encourage. T'sais. Il y a plusieurs niveaux du Québec, du français du Québec aussi. Le Québec, de chaque coin de Montréal, il est différent un peu. Puis de chaque ville, des 17 régions du Québec. Il y a bien des Québécois, quand des fois, ils nous demandent il y a combien de régions, puis il y en a plusieurs. Il y a plusieurs régions, là, ça on le sait, là, mais quand je veux dire, si on habite dans la métropole, c'est sûr qu'il y a certains Québécois qui ont habité la plupart de leur vie dans la métropole de Montréal. Fait on ne sont jamais voir Saint-Adrien, le petit village de Saint-Adrien, puis ça c'est la question, parce que c'est lequel? Parce que, vous savez pas, vous savez-tu qu'au Québec, il y a 2 villages qui s'appellent Saint-Adrien. Fait qu'il y en a 2, Saint-Adrien, il n'y en a pas un qu'un. En tout cas, fait que juste pour dire que mode neurodivergence, ça fait que juste ça, on est différents, nous, les Aspergers. On voit le monde différemment, mais c'est pas négatif, vraiment. Mais c'est sûr que c'est comme les gens qui disent c'est une maladie, c'est pas une maladie dans le sens qu'une maladie mentale, une maladie qui peut avoir des traitements ou des médicaments. C'est juste faire la gestion des symptômes, tu sais. Faire la gestion des symptômes. Puis faire la gestion de ces symptômes, c'est sûr qu'il faut qu'on aille plusieurs niveaux. Fait que cette gestion de ces symptômes, c'est sûr qu'il faut qu'on le fasse. Parce que si moi je le fais pas, moi non plus, c'est sûr que moi je le fais pas dans ce sens. Ne pas le faire aussi, tu sais, c'est sûr qu'il faut avoir des choses de la divergence qu'on comprend pas exactement c'est quoi du point de vue des neurotypiques. Tu sais, des neurotypiques. Parce que les neurotypiques, vous êtes les 99,56%. Les 99,56%. Les 99,56%. Les 99,56%, tu sais. Les 99,56%, tu sais. Fait que, moi, en tant qu'Asperger, je fais partie d'une petite communauté de gens, de citoyens de l'Amérique du Nord, du monde. Moins d'1%, là. Oui, c'est beau, ça, là. Moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage. Il n'y a même pas 0,44%, tu sais. 0,44%. 0,44%, 0,44%, tu sais. 0,44. 0,44%, tu sais. Fait qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup, 0,44%. Je veux juste m'hydrater un peu. Là, ça fait du bien proche de la rivière, là, mais c'est humide un peu. Puis je pense qu'ils ont annoncé qu'il va faire, ça va sentir comme 33 degrés, je pense. Il faisait 27 quand la dernière fois j'ai fait une vérification. 27 degrés ce matin à 11h44 le matin. Je vais m'hydrater un peu. Je vais vous donner un exemple des caractéristiques de l'Asperger. Vous voyez l'autobus. Vous allez voir l'autobus, les 99,56%. Moi, en voyant l'autobus, je vais voir le chiffre 07 44 032. 44 032, 44 032 dessus. Puis je vais me demander c'est quoi ces chiffres-là. Vous savez, ça veut dire que je me concentre sur certains détails de l'autobus. Qui peut-être les gens ils ont dit, bah, moi, j'ai jamais remarqué ça. Tu sais, vous dire, c'est des choses de l'Asperger, de l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Fait que c'est des caractéristiques. Fait que ces caractéristiques-là font qu'on voit le monde différemment. Fait qu'en voyant le monde différemment, on va se concentrer sur certains détails. Tels que, comme je vous dire ici, je vais regarder qu'est-ce qui est écrit. Ah, Girol, Montréal, bien, un beau travail, vous avez fait comment? C'est juste ça. Ou s'il y a des chiffres, je vais voir, puis je vais spéculer là, avec la sagesse ou le savoir que je possède avant. C'est quoi ça veut dire, ces chiffres-là? Qu'est-ce qu'ils symbolent? Fait que la concentration sur des détails. Se concentrer sur des détails. Se concentrer sur des détails. Fait que se concentrer sur certains détails, ça fait que je suis neurodivergent. Mais je veux dire, c'est une caractéristique de l'Asperger's, aussi connu comme l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, mais moi j'utilise encore l'Asperger's, là, comme ça a été fusionné avec l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Fait que nous, on peut avoir de la misère. Je peux avoir de la misère, je peux avoir de la difficulté, je peux être vulnérable là, dans certaines choses. Puis malheureusement, je veux juste m'hydrater puis continuer un peu là-dessus. Après que je m'engage dans la géopolitique, mon sujet dans lequel je suis bon et j'excelle parce que c'est ça mon sujet. C'est ça l'intérêt spécial, ce qu'on a comme intérêt obsessif, que nous les Aspergers, on vit avec, comme je vis avec mes cicatrices. Puis aujourd'hui, justement, je vis une crise économique, financièrement, du point de vue du commerce. Commercial, juste du commerce, c'est juste ça. C'est juste ça. On va boire tout. Comme par exemple, je vais vous donner un point. Je vais regarder ces chiffres ici en bas. Vous voyez les petits chiffres là? C'est écrit là, tout petit. Je vais me concentrer sur ces détails-là. 1, 5, 8, 4, 3, une ligne, 0, 1. Dans un parenthèse, il y a le C23. Puis en bas du corps, je sais que c'est pour cachage. Si c'est une boisson cachage, pour les lois alimentaires, de nutrition juive, les lois de nutrition alimentaire juive. Puis bien sûr, le recyclage, le symbole du recyclage. Mais le 33, là, le 33 avant du je ne sais pas c'est quoi exactement. Mais les autres chiffres aussi, vous voyez, en haut du symbole du cachère, du corps, il y a des chiffres. Fait que je vais me concentrer sur ces chiffres-là. Ça, c'est des classifications qui existent. C'est-tu la production des bouteilles? Ça symbolise quoi? C'est des petits détails de même que... Des fois, c'est pour ça que nous, les Aspi, on a une caractéristique quand on va dans les marchés. Depuis des années, hein, j'inspecte les produits. Je les amène tellement proches de l'œil pour les inspecter proches, pour regarder ces petits chiffres. C'est quand vous voyez des gens qui font des choses comme ça, dans le magasin, ça peut paraître drôle un peu, ça peut paraître bizarre, étrange, hors normal, là, mais c'est parce que l'Asperger's, les Aspi, ça peut être que le citoyenne aille l'Asperger's. C'est une caractéristique. C'est pas des symptômes. C'est pas des symptômes parce que c'est pas une maladie, c'est juste des caractéristiques. Puis on peut être intense, super concentré, super dedans, puis... Mais la violence, moi, je veux rien savoir. J'aime pas la violence, je n'aime pas la violence, mais je suis intense, je suis concentré, je suis dedans, puis juste me dire, tu sais, moi, en tant que citoyen, juste me dire, prendre distance, salut, bonjour, je veux rien savoir, merci, puis that's it, that's all, tu sais. That's it, that's all, rock'n'roll, c'est comme ça qu'on vit quand même. Hey, beau rouge, un bon rouge. Fait que je vais m'hydrater tout ça, puis je vais continuer à dire, encore une fois, c'est pas une maladie, c'est une condition de mon cerveau, il est différent, il y a ses mutations. Puis je fais partie de cette petite communauté de moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage, 0,44%, c'est pas beaucoup, hein? Il n'y en a pas beaucoup, ben des gens, des citoyens qui savent même pas c'est quoi l'Asperger's. Et c'est ça. Et donc, c'est l'Asperger's. C'est l'Asperger's. Et ça, c'est des belles fleurs. Je veux juste les sentir un peu. Ah oui, ça sent tellement bon, ça. Eh ouais. Je suis un Asperger's, monsieur, madame, androgyne, pansexuel, philosophe, artiste, athlète, analyste théoricien, géopolitique et mystique. Pas toutes les réponses, mais c'est bien sûr quelque chose que je dois savoir et quelque chose que je dois savoir. Puis, bien sûr, c'est une bonne chose. Les fleurs comme ça dans la rue, quand on se promène, mais ça embellit la ville. Puis dans la métropole, on a quand même des gros arbres, tu sais. Des gros arbres, il faut qu'on les aime quand même. Ces gros arbres-là, mais regarde, hein. Hey, c'est une beauté quand même, ici. C'est une beauté quand même, tu sais. C'est une beauté quand même, tu sais, qu'il faut regarder, puis faut le voir, là, dans ça. Comment qu'on est, comment qu'on vit dans cette circonférence, dans ce cercle, et dans ce point de convergence, qu'on fasse bien sûr dans le monde, tu sais. Et c'est des choses comme ça qui se manifestent comme des caractéristiques de cette différence neurologique qui fait que, moi, nous, des fois, on peut être direct, des fois, on peut dire des choses directes. Mettons, poser une question, on va dire des choses directement, tu sais, certaines choses, mais je peux être poli, j'aime ça être poli, j'aime ça servir, j'aime ça. J'ai travaillé dans le CHSLD durant la COVID, bien d'autres emplois. Le problème chez nous, chez les Asperger, c'est deux problèmes parallèlement. Le taux de chômage, le taux de sans-emploi est très élevé, entre 60 et 80%. Entre 60 et 80%. Entre 60 et 80%. C'est 11 fois plus que vous, la majorité de 99,56%, comparé aux Aspergers qui sont 0,44%, qui n'ont pas d'emploi, qui sont sans emploi. C'est beaucoup, hein? Mais moi, je travaille indépendamment, j'aime ça le travail, puis je prends beaucoup de fierté en tant qu'analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. C'est ça mon intérêt spécial. Et nous, les Aspergers, on a des intérêts spéciaux. Et dans ces intérêts, ça préoccupe toutes nos journées, nos routines rituelles, comme des rituels de routine, qui préoccupent nos journées comme par jour. À tous les jours, c'est l'analyse de la théorie en géopolitique. Aujourd'hui, j'étais censé partir de chez nous à 11h. Ben, je suis parti en finalement 1h56. Fait quasiment 3 heures après. Parce que je faisais des analyses et théories en géopolitique parce qu'il y a la nouvelle crise. L'Iran-Israël, Israël-Iran, le nouveau conflit, une guerre, là. On est-tu rentré dans la guerre nucléaire? Puis, bien sûr, moi, la géopolitique, je prends beaucoup de fierté. Je dois dire de faire cette déclaration maintenant que je fais ce travail de marche, entraînement physique, méditation pour le Collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, pour les 63, les 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires, que j'ai prévu la situation actuelle qui se déroule maintenant, là. Je l'ai prévu en 2019. En 2019, en octobre-novembre, j'ai la preuve. J'ai la vidéo en ligne où que je décris que dans le futur, il va y avoir possiblement une guerre mondiale, une conflagration internationale, une guerre mondiale dans le futur. J'ai prévu, puis c'était 50-50 sur l'utilisation des armes nucléaires, des bombes nucléaires, mais c'était 2 tiers, fait que ça veut dire 66,6%. Et belle la rivière du serpent, la rivière du serpent, la rivière du serpent. C'était 2 tiers pour que des armes bactériologiques, des armes biologiques soient implémentées, soient utilisées aussi. L'utilisation des armes biologiques ou bactériologiques, mais biologiques, bactériologiques, ça comprend. C'est des choses comme ça, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse sur moi-même. Et bien sûr, ici, c'est quelque chose qu'il faut que je fasse sur moi-même, ici, comme ça. Et bien sûr, c'est la politique de la terre de l'armée du dragon et de l'armée de la déesse qui danse. On est pour la sécurité, service et défense, bien sûr. Sécurité, service et défense, bien sûr. C'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse dans ce point de convergence. Mais c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on dise que nous, les neurodivergents, on a ces capacités, bien sûr, ces forces qui ne sont pas, bien sûr, parallèles à d'autres forces que vous avez les neurotypiques, mais quand même, on peut se balancer puis on peut bâtir des ponts. On peut bâtir des ponts de compréhension, des ponts de compréhension, bien sûr, des ponts de compréhension. Fait que ces parts de compréhension, ça font, bien sûr, qu'on est rendu à un point qu'on démystifie de plus en plus l'Asperger's, qui est l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Fait que dans ce point de démystification, on a encore beaucoup de travail à faire, mais dernièrement, il y a eu ben du travail à faire, bien sûr, dans ce point de convergence, qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, dans ce point de voir et de dire, bien sûr, qu'on est rendu à ce point de neuroconvergence, tu sais. Et c'est des choses on a, puis on est rendu, bien sûr, dans ce point de vivre, pour vivre, bien sûr, de point de, où qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui à vivre dans le système qui est créé, bien sûr, pour la majorité de vous, les neurotypiques, les 99,56%. Fait que le taux de chômage, il est extrême. 11 fois plus. Fait que pour chacun de vous, les personnes de 99,1%, il y a 11 Asperger's. Parallèlement, le taux de dépression et de suicide, 9 fois plus. 9 fois plus. 9 fois plus. 9 fois plus. Puis moi, j'ai vécu, j'ai été suicidaire, j'étais en dépression suicidaire. J'étais en dépression suicidaire, mais qu'est-ce que ça m'a changé ma vie? C'est quand j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. De côte à côte, de côte à côte. J'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. J'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. Et en traversant le Canada de côte à côte, bien sûr, en traversant le Canada de côte à côte, cet événement, ça m'a changé ma vie parce que j'ai eu comme un réveil. Je me suis dit, tellement de choses à faire, à voir au Canada, au Québec. J'ai établi un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, québécois, vous êtes ma famille, même si moi je suis différent. Puis les Asperger, les Asperger, on est différents, mais on peut faire quand même du bon travail ensemble. Je trouve qu'on peut bâtir ces ponts, puis on peut se donner la main, puis faire du travail ensemble quand même. Même si, paradoxe, c'est un gros paradoxe que chez les Asperger's comme moi, mais le problème, c'est que le taux de chômage il est très élevé. C'est 11 fois plus que la majorité. C'est énorme. C'est vraiment énorme. Là. Entre 60 et 80%. Entre 60 et 80%. Et fait bien sûr, parallèlement à le problème du chômage, c'est aussi un autre problème, bien sûr, qui se rajoute. C'est le problème de la dépression puis des tendances suicidaires. C'est 9 fois plus. C'est très élevé. Fait que pour chacun de vous qui fait partie de la 99,56%, la majorité des gens, mais il y en a 9. Pour un, il y en a 9. Fois 9, là, c'est 9 fois plus. Le taux de suicide et de dépression. Et le taux de sans-emploi, c'est 11 fois plus. Fait que c'est inacceptable. Il y a du travail à faire. C'est vraiment inacceptable, là. C'est vraiment inacceptable, là. C'est vraiment inacceptable. C'est vraiment inacceptable, là. Puis moi, j'aime pas la violence, Je suis intense, mais j'ai vécu la violence. Je admire cette cette belle place. Moi, j'ai vécu la violence, puis je me suis fait attaquer par surprise dans un coup d'année. Je suis tombé, je connais ma tête, puis par terre, dans un coup d'année dans le métro de Montréal, j'ai eu le bras droit disloqué. Le bras droit, ils m'ont recraqué ça à l'hôpital juif. J'étais à l'hôpital général juif. L'hôpital de Montréal, là, général juif de Montréal. Puis ils m'ont recraqué le bras. Remis en place. Puis j'étais mis sur des médicaments. Médicaments. Puis j'étais dans un coma. Puis dans un coma, bien sûr, dans ce... Ils m'ont mis sur ces médicaments, bien sûr. Puis j'ai la perte de mémoire. J'ai de la misère à souvenir ma vie avant 2015-2014, après 9 ans, 9 ans, c'est correct. 10 ans, ça devrait embryer. Plus qu'11 ans, c'est comme la noirceur, c'est comme de l'ombre, c'est de la misère à voir, tu sais. Et c'est des choses comme ça qu'il faut que je fasse dans ce point de convergence. Ici, bien sûr, c'est plus important, bien sûr, qu'en 2017. Avant ça, j'étais en suicidaire. Bien sûr, suicidaire moi-même, et bien sûr, c'est des choses qui sont dures pour nous, les Aspergers. L'emploi, à long terme, je parle. Parce que les Aspergers, on a de l'emploi, mais moi, ça a été 2-3 mois, 2-3 semaines, 2-3 jours. C'est ça le problème chez les Aspergers. C'est un gros problème, là. J'ai eu de l'emploi que j'ai aimé, mais financièrement, je suis stressé, mais c'est juste mon seul stress en ce moment. C'est mon seul stress en ce moment est financier. Bien sûr, c'est le stress financier que je vis en ce moment. Puis c'est ça. C'est that's all, vraiment, là. J'ai payé mon loyer pour le mois de juin, puis je sais que juillet s'en vient, mais le mois de juin, j'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café, j'ai du thé, puis il faut que je fasse ça. Bien sûr, je suis toujours ouvert pour l'emploi. Pour le travail, c'est quelque chose que j'aime, hein. Le travail, l'emploi, ben c'est quelque chose que j'adore faire. Je peux être intense, puis j'ai commencé à perdre du poids, j'ai commencé à m'entraîner après que j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte en 2018, 2017, 2018, c'est quand j'ai commencé à, bien sûr, commencer à challenger Donald Trump parce qu'il a fait l'erreur d'imposer des tarifs sur le Canada. Ça, c'est une erreur stratégique parce qu'en géopolitique, là, ça, c'est mon royaume, mon domaine. Je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique qui a prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. J'ai prévu ça en 2019, avant que j'aille survécu la COVID. J'ai survécu la COVID, ce que j'ai dit ça, Dieu déesse, et je veux bâtir le temple de la déesse oubliée, puis je veux bâtir avec vous, Québécois, Canada, sur la frontière du Canada des États-Unis, là. Colisée du peuple impérial, que ça soit 11 fois plus grand que le Caesar Superdome et le Mercedes-Benz, et le Caesar Superdome et le Mercedes-Benz, que ça soit 11 fois plus grand et énorme. Que les 49ers, ils ont perdu le Super Bowl contre les Ravens par 3 points seulement. Ça a plusieurs noms, ce Super Bowl-là. Blackout Ball, Harbor Ball, les Bro Bowl. Ça a plusieurs surnoms, comme moi, le Dragon Arc-en-Ciel, là. Prêtresse Anne, votre artiste athlète. Puis encore une fois, pour finir avec l'Asperger's, avant de rentrer dans la géopolitique, c'est que ces deux problèmes-là majeurs, l'emploi à long terme, puis la compréhension de c'est quoi, parce que c'est pas une maladie mentale. Les Asperger's, nous, on a des mutations dans le cerveau, au niveau microscopique, là, je parle, c'est pas vraiment visible, là, ou c'est pas une grosse mutation en pourcentage, c'est 0,0000%, là, au niveau du micro, là. Ces mutations-là, mais c'est le cerveau des Asperger's, il y a ces mutations, il y a un documentaire de l'ABC des États-Unis, la compagnie de production puis de nouvelles, ABC, ça s'appelle, c'est comme parallèlement, on va dire à Radio-Canada un peu. Ils ont fait un documentaire qui disent, dans ce documentaire, ils font une thèse théorie, là. Une thèse théorie, bien sûr, que l'Asperger's, l'autisme monofonctionnel, que c'est un niveau d'évolution. Il y a une évolution, c'est un point d'évolution pour l'être humain. C'est pour ça qu'il n'y en a pas beaucoup, puis c'est pour ça qu'il y a ces mutations qui peuvent être à cause de biologique ou héréditaire, génétique ou héréditaire. Fait qu'il n'y a pas de conclusion exacte. C'est-tu génétique? C'est-tu héréditaire? C'est-tu héréditaire? C'est-tu génétique? Fait qu'il n'y a pas à 100% la réponse. C'est un peu des deux, il paraît. Fait que les origines, la cause, là, je parle de la cause de l'Asperger's, c'est pas connu à 100%. On peut pas vraiment dire oui à 100%. Vous comprenez? que ce soit héréditaire ou biologique. Peut-être un peu des deux. Fait que les origines, la cause de ces mutations dans le cerveau et de l'Asperger's, c'est pas connu à 100%. Bon, je vais parler de ce que je connais, bien sûr. La géopolitique, le sport, l'entraînement physique, la danse et l'entraînement physique que je préfère avec le sport. Et bien sûr, le rock'n'roll qu'on voyait dans mes vidéos, c'est pas mal ça. Des fois, je rentre dans la transe et je fais du rock'n'roll, tu sais, je rentre dans la transe, puis je fais du rock'n'roll, tu sais, je rentre dans la transe, puis je fais du rock'n'roll, puis des fois, c'est dur de s'arrêter un peu, il faut me le dire, mais ça dépend dans quel sujet, comme dans la géopolitique, si je commence à parler, je peux juste en parler de la géopolitique, en étant que c'est mon intérêt spécial. Nous, les Aspergers, on a des intérêts spéciaux qui préoccupent. La plupart de nos routines rituelles du quotidien se tournent autour de ces intérêts spéciaux. Ça peut varier. Pour quelqu'un, ça peut être les automobiles. Ça va être étudier tout le jour, là, peut-être des heures par jour à étudier des automobiles, l'histoire, à regarder des vidéos, tous les documentaires sur les automobiles. Ça peut être les radios. Ça peut être la technologie, ça peut être les arts, ça peut être l'histoire. Moi, c'est la géopolitique. Mais je spécialise dans le 20e siècle, puis au jour, au quotidien, pour aujourd'hui, pour le 18 juin et 2025, sont mes protocoles pour le rêve qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, qui vous chante une chanson de rock'n'roll qui est bien sûr Prêtez allégeance légion, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Prêtez allégeance légion, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Prêtez allégeance légion, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Prêtez allégeance, légion, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Si vous voulez me faire l'amour, mais vous savez, noir et blanc, messieurs, madame, comme je suis moi-même, 50-50, à cause des réincarnations, des fois j'étais né homme-femme, vous voyez les vagues qui sont belles, et bien sûr, font du bon bruit, vous pouvez faire la méditation ici, et bien sûr, dans d'autres situations qu'on est rendu, et ça ressemble, on dirait, à une ruelle de Californie, un peu, dans le stéréotype, là, ici, avec le, comment ils sont, tu sais, comment que c'est fait avec le... Je pense que c'est des originaires de la Californie et de la Floride, ces arbres-là. Hey, les arbres là-bas, là. Ces arbres-là, avec... ça me fait penser un peu à la Californie, un peu comme ça, là, mais... Peut-être c'est moi qui vois pas bien, mais en tout cas. Hey, de belles vagues ici. Vous pouvez venir vous allonger, puis méditer, puis écouter mes vidéos, puis vous gratter... Ben, pas vous gratter les... Je parle le cou, là, grattez-vous... en privé chez vous, dans d'autres places, mais... Hey, c'est des belles vagues, ça. Ouais, une belle place, ça, vous pouvez descendre ici. Hein. C'est ça qui est beau, la rivière. Vous pouvez aller à des places où vous pouvez voir pour vous mettre à l'ombre, pour vous rafraîchir. Si vous avez besoin du rafraîchissement, mais c'est une belle place pour le faire, ici. Hein, c'est une belle place pour le faire. Si vous avez besoin de ces rafraîchissements, c'est une belle place. Fait que là, la question de l'Iran puis l'Israël, c'est une grosse question qui... Je dis qu'ils ont pris un grand risque d'implémenter, de faire des frappes militaires. Puis bien sûr, l'Iran, il a riposté, répondu. Puis il paraît que le système de défense d'Israël, il y a de la misère un peu contre les attaques de l'Iran. Puis c'était bien sûr une surprise quand même d'attaquer par... toute seule, tu sais, Israël qui a décidé, à l'armée, ben c'est le chef d'État d'Israël, bien sûr, qui dirige Israël en ce moment, puis qui ont décidé d'attaquer l'Iran par une attaque préemptive. Qu'est-ce qu'on appelle le preemptive strike en anglais? C'est une doctrine d'attaque préventive, tu sais. D'attaque préventive. Fait que moi, je sais c'est quoi être attaqué par surprise, parce que je l'ai vécu, j'ai survécu, peut-être. Dans d'autres circonstances, je voulais me tuer peut-être, je sais pas, mais il n'a pas réussi, puis je suis vivant, puis je suis hyper vigilant, j'aime pas la violence, moi c'est juste pour la défense, sécurité, service, défense, de côte à côte, pour qu'est-ce que j'appelle le grand collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord, qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, qui est fondamentalement un appel pour implémenter les 2 institutions de partenariat public-privé, intégrer avec toutes les institutions de sécurité, la police, puis les armées pour la création de cette nouvelle institution États-Unis-canadienne avec un fusionnement par un partenariat public-privé avec les États-Unis par la création d'une nouvelle monnaie, une monnaie commune, une nouvelle monnaie, puis bien sûr une nouvelle monnaie commune par l'implémentation de ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette que je vais discuter aussitôt, puis bien sûr en faisant bien sûr ce grand compromis du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord pour les 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires, les 10 provinces, 3 territoires, 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires, 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires, les 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires. C'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'on a dans la convergence. Et bien sûr, on vit un stress financier en ce moment, moi-même. Et c'est pour ça la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation le plus tôt possible. Et ça sent vraiment comme l'océan. Ça me fait penser quand j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte, l'océan Pacifique, quand je suis allé en 2017, en août, bien sûr, à Vancouver, Colombie-Britannique, puis en 2017, je suis allé à Halifax, en Nouvelle-Écosse, et cet événement, avant ça, j'étais en dépression et j'étais suicidaire. Cet événement, ça m'a vraiment fait sortir de ma dépression. Cet événement, ça m'a vraiment fait sortir de ma dépression, bien sûr. Cet événement, ça m'a vraiment fait sortir de ma dépression. J'ai établi un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, les Québécois, les Canadiens, les États-Unis, nos frères et sœurs dans les 50 États aux États-Unis. Il faut qu'on se fusionne à ma manière préférable. Et bien sûr, c'est un nouveau événement inquiétant majeur de la géopolitique. Et justement, moi, j'avais prévu en 2019, puis j'ai la preuve parce que j'ai la vidéo en ligne de documentation pour celle-là. J'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant en 2019. J'avais prévu que, c'est sûr que mes prédictions puis mes analyses théories en géopolitique, ils peuvent être un peu académiques, intellectuelles, académo-intellectuel, un peu philosophique, sophistiqué, peut-être un peu trop complexe dans certaines circonstances, mais pour faire un résumé, c'est que j'avais prévu qu'à cause de ces conflits qui n'ont pas été résolus du 20e siècle, ces conflits qui n'ont pas été résolus du 20e siècle durant la guerre froide, qu'il y aura un conflit, ces conflits-là vont reprendre. Puis qu'est-ce qui se passe, la Russie et l'Ukraine? C'est des conflits de la guerre froide qui a duré plus que 44 ans, qui a duré 45 ans entre 1947, mars 1947 et décembre 1991. Et bien sûr, l'Ukraine, la Russie et d'autres conflits aussi. Israël puis l'Iran. L'Iran d'aujourd'hui, la République islamique de l'Iran, s'est établie le 11 février 1979. Le 11 février 1979. Le 11 février 1979, ça fait plus que 45 ans. 46 peut-être, ça a fait le 11 février 46 qui sont au pouvoir, ce régime. C'est justement le même ayatollah, le chef suprême révolutionnaire ayatollah, comment ils ont leur système de... Ben, c'est pas une république dans le sens démocratique, là, c'est plus une république... C'est différent, c'est différent leur système, c'est religieux, philosophique, théocratique. C'est comme une théocratie république. Un seul parti, c'est comme une république islamique. C'est ça dans leur nom officiel, c'est la République islamique de l'Iran. La République islamique de l'Iran. Puis c'est Ayatollah qui règne maintenant, il règne depuis 1989. C'est juste le deuxième chef, Ayatollah Khomeini, Ayatollah. Fait que l'Iran, il y a eu des sanctions dessus, il y a eu une isolation, il y a eu certaines choses qui se sont faites à travers le 20e siècle, là, puis à travers, bien sûr, le 21e siècle. Puis là, l'Iran, l'année passée, je me souviens, il a répondu à envoyer des missiles, il a attaqué Israël par des missiles. Fait que là, le 13 juin 2025, cette année, Israël a décidé d'attaquer l'Iran. Qu'est-ce qui est paradoxe, c'est parce qu'ils n'ont pas fini avec le Hamas à Gaza, tu sais. C'est pas une guerre qui a fini en masse. Le Gaza, c'est pas une guerre qui a de conclusion vraiment encore. Il paraît qu'il y a des milliers de soldats dans ces tunnels qu'ils ont bâtis, qu'ils ont supposément tellement de kilomètres en haut, en dessus. C'est 350 à 600, mais c'est pas. Ils n'ont pas bâti ça en 3 ans et demi, là. Pas bâti ça en 1 an, pas bâti ça en 18 mois. Ça a pris depuis 2007. C'est là qu'ils ont pris le pouvoir Hamas. En 2007. Fait que c'est là qu'ils ont pris le pouvoir, bien sûr, Hamas. C'est bien sûr, ça a pris des années pour bâtir ça. C'est pour ça que nous, ici, dans l'Amérique du Nord, il faut bien sûr qu'on construit 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels. Dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. Et regardez ces belles places, Je salue les travailleurs d'Hydro-Québec quand je vois ça, puis les travailleurs qui ont fait tout le travail du 20e siècle pour avoir ce grand privilège de civilisation, là. Toute l'électrification pour qu'on ait le téléphone intelligent, le mettre dans l'électrique, que ça soit rechargé, tout ça, c'est tout un gros privilège, ça. Regardez ce beau travail qui était fait. Ça transmet de l'autre bord de la rivière du Serpent, tu sais. Et c'est sûr qu'on est ouvert, hein, du sabotage puis de l'espionnage aussi. Ça a prouvé l'Hydro-Québec qu'on a eu de l'espionnage de la Chine, comme qu'on a eu de l'espionnage l'année passée aux États-Unis. Puis on est à cause qu'on a pris des décisions de s'impliquer d'une manière militaire, hein, pas seulement économique, financière avec des autres pays. On est vulnérable que même ces grands pays qui ont des ressources, des puissances, qui ont des puissances dans le top des puissances mondiales du monde, mettons top 20, des puissances économiques, financières du monde, c'est possible qu'ils embauchent, qu'ils emploient les organisations criminelles de l'Amérique du Nord, du Québec, du Canada, des États-Unis pour mettre, puis faire l'instabilité. Qu'ils utilisent les... Ça, c'est des théories, des papiers théoriques que j'ai écrits, des vulnérabilités pour faire la réconciliation avec des membres des communautés immigrantes qui sont non alignés avec l'OTAN. L'OTAN, c'est l'organisation de militaires et de sécurité, donc on fait partie. Pour ça, des fois, c'est plus facile pour avoir certaines choses de clearance, de sécurité, quand on fait partie de l'OTAN. Et c'est dans ces choses-là, bien sûr, qu'on est rendu à voir aujourd'hui avec ces belles nuages qui sont là au-dessus. Et je vais devoir me mettre des lunettes. C'est un peu... Lunettes, là.